The result was truly surprising when Yu Sojun, a genius born into the Sujin clan, one of the top 5 clans in Korea, lost to a nobody. Nonchalantly, during the selection for one of the top 3 hunter training facilities in Korea, Valhalla, known for its staggering odds of 500 to 1. Every year, countless hunters aspire to bear the title of Valhalla, but no more than 150 can graduate under this title. Competition has existed since the beginning. Du Sozion has mana levels comparable to high school students. At just 10 years old, she could channel mana into her sword to enhance her weapon. By the age of 13 and 16, she challenged all members of the Yusin clan and defeated them all, but that's just what's written in the records. Some say otherwise. Yu Sozion could even communicate with constellations, the clan's guardians, and that's why the Yusin clan has such high expectations. The reason Korea has 5 clans is that the guardian constellations are linked to each house. Normally, hunters receive blessings or make contracts with a constellation. However, the guardian constellations of the 5 clans are different. The Dushin clan has the Sword God, the Jiangsan clan has the Holy Saint, the Choi Jin clan has the Blade Emperor, the Osun clan has the Power King, and the Du Jun clan has the Spirit God. Members of the 5 clans receive blessings from the constellations. Correspondingly, they possess talents and abilities that far exceed others. There's a significant difference between receiving a blessing and having a direct connection, which is a contract with a guardian deity. If that's the case, then Ju Sojun is indeed a genius. But even if she is a genius, standing before Kim Ju-hyo makes her feel like a mosquito. She thought the match would be intense, and Ju Sozion would take down her opponent in one strike, but no. The one who was taken down in one strike was Ju Sosion, to the astonishment of the reporters and the head coach Van Halali Sang Cheon, along with the heir of the Jushin clan IU. Kim Ju-hyo looked down in frustration at her opponent collapsing right in front of her, wondering why everyone was so weak. Is this the future 300 years later? Oh, why did you say that? Simply because 300 years ago at the Tower of Destruction, the god of destruction, Bok Cho, and the martial god Kim Han-oh had an incredible battle, and the martial god managed to defeat the tower's overlord, successfully preventing the world's destruction. However, it was truly magnificent. The tower shook violently after Bok Cho's death, and Kim Han-oh clutched his stomach in pain, wondering if the tower collapsed because he killed the overlord. And it seemed that way. In that moment of life and death, bidding farewell to the mortal realm, he suddenly remembered his students. Luckily, he didn't bring them along, otherwise they would all be doomed. Though unwilling, he could only smile foolishly before becoming a pile of meat. However, death was not the end. Kim Han-oh was reborn in the body of a 17-year-old. 300 years after the Tower of Destruction collapsed anyway, he was completely satisfied to be alive again. His body weaker and younger than when he was called the martial god, but that was not an issue if he trained again. He believed he would live in luxury at least until that transparent window appeared, and of course he had to chase after that window. It was always clinging to the hunters, announcing that the Tower of Destruction would appear within the next 5 years, preparing to hit them hard, making Kim Ju-hyo want to go insane. Cursing that damn Bok Cho, he thought he should have thrown that bastard into the lava back then. Now he couldn't do anything anymore. He would destroy the tower once and for all and then live in luxury for the rest of his life, but to live in luxury. Life was still long. The system reminded Kim Ju-hyo that he could retrieve his weapons and memories on the 3rd floor 5th room on the right of Valhalla, and this was also the reason why he participated in this entrance exam. On the 4th day of the tournament, Kim Ju-hyuk's opponent is the eldest son of the Osun Ersei clan. This guy isn't good at academic schemes or martial arts. However, he still possesses an extraordinary talent. Ersek's muscular strength allows him to do things that others can't. If they didn't have mana and just put in a bit of effort in training, he could easily become many times stronger. Ersek's incredible muscular strength is entirely innate. Just that alone is enough for him to be called a genius. Looking at his opponent, who doesn't seem strong, Ersek confidently believes he can take down Kim Ju-hyuk in no time and use it to boost his own reputation. But this can only happen in dreams. He's truly a brainless fool. After Kim Ju-hyuk threw a few sarcastic remarks, he lost his cool and charged in without thinking. Kim Ju-hyuk knows he won't win a battle of pure muscle in this body, because Eric's muscular strength is no joke. However, it's not just about being big to win. Martial arts help enhance muscular strength and the ability to observe the opponent. If those two aspects aren't balanced, then the outcome will be like this. He simply dodged Ersek's attack by a hair's breadth, causing him to lose his balance. and immediately spun around to deliver a finishing blow to his opponent's chest, leaving him in pain, sprawled on the ground, winning this meaningless match. Kim Joo-hyuk then coldly turned his back and walked out while the reporters and members of various guilds present kept whispering and discussing his abilities, including the clan leader. Clan leader Chu Shin recognized that Kim Joo-hyuk's strike was not a simple attack, even though his son didn't care about training in martial arts. He only focused on enhancing his muscular strength, but he could easily dodge a punch from anyone of his age. However, X couldn't dodge that punch. Initially, X was so angry that he lost his mind and charged at his opponent while using magic that he almost never used to quickly end the match. But Kim Joo-hyuk slightly tilted his head to the side to dodge because X had been overconfident, thinking his opponent would definitely take the hit, so he shifted his entire focus. Chu Shin stroked his chin, appearing contemplative. So that kid moves even faster than X's maximum speed. The moment X charged, Kim Joo-hyuk had already made his own plan. That alone was an extraordinary talent, and he seemed very excited. He glanced around at the other guild members, and then returned to today's main character, affirming to himself that he would definitely recruit him into their clan at all costs. The break time ended, and the next match began. Kim Joo-hyuk's opponent is the second daughter of the Chojin clan, Choi Aran. As soon as she appeared, the men in the stands went wild. Immediately, they were like bulls in heat, continuously cheering and shouting. Kim Joo-hyuk felt his eyes itching. He cursed them, thinking they looked no different from a bunch of lunatics. Why on earth were these damn guys who had done military service calling a 17-year-old girl sister? He thought this time would be like every other, with the opponent taking the initiative to attack first, but no, both stood there frozen like avocados, waiting for the other to make a move. Well, since it was like that, Kim Joo-hyuk decided he would strike first. With a rather villainous look on his face, he smirked and stepped lightly forward. At that moment, Aaron realized the opportunity had come. She drew her sword and decisively slashed in a swift motion, just like she did when fighting others in an instant. Kim Joo-hyuk vanished without a trace, and then suddenly appeared right next to her, a huge question mark hovering over Aaron's head. If she kept focusing on the point she aimed to attack, it was like drawing a path for him to dodge. Saying that, he launched a counterattack towards Aaron, who was immediately pushed back. Luckily, she used her sword to block, allowing her to stand firm, but there was no time for her to react. Kim Joo-hyuk, like a wandering ghost, stood right in front of her, ready to deliver another blow. Now let's see if she can block this one. Kim Joo-hyuk, like a wandering ghost, stood right in front of her, ready to take another hit. Let's see if she can handle it now. Caught off guard, Aaron couldn't defend himself and took the hit, collapsing immediately as he watched his opponent lie flat. Kim Joo-hyuk felt that the attack just now seemed a bit off. But whatever, he had already won. Thus, the competition for the top 10 officially came to a close, with the name at the top of the leaderboard being none other than Kim Joo-hyuk, who wearily stepped off the stage, rubbing his small, slender shoulders. He immediately ran into the recruitment team from various guilds, which was quite bothersome. Kim Joo-hyuk glared at them with a piercing look and exclaimed, "Shut up already!" The next day, news of the young man ranking first in the entrance competition, driving away and cursing the guilds that had sent invitations, spread quickly across the newspapers. Comments like, "Is Kim Joo-hyuk a crazy guy? Is he a villain?" kept popping up from the online community, but no matter what happened, the young man remained the center of attention, and he confidently entered the hall with his own strength. The first thing upon starting school was a flex session about the school and a few speeches from those who contributed to the revolution. Not to mention the heads of the academy saw Kim Joo-hyuk yawning while a few guys beside him felt a bit intimidated, wondering if he was standing out too much today. But whatever, that's fine. It saves him from having to get to know any of these guys. Standing there listening until his ears were about to fall off, the enrollment ceremony finally came to an end. The students were randomly assigned to classes in the virtual combat training room, with the guild leader Cho Jin, the instructor, looking over the group of students. He wondered if his time was almost up. Why did the school divide the classes like this? Wasn't it random? In front was Ju Sojun from the Jushin clan, next to him was Choi Jin from the Aran clan, and the big guy in the middle was Ersei from the Osen clan. How could it be that the three geniuses from the 5 clans were in the same class, and more importantly, why was that jerk Kim Joo-hyuk here too? Although he was feeling quite confused, he quickly regained his composure, introducing himself as the head instructor and also the guide. Kim Lee-gun had just finished speaking. He immediately pressed a button on the keyboard, and everything around them suddenly shook as they were transported to another space where a horde of goblins, about 100 of them, appeared outside. The monsters, seeing their prey, rushed forward, but Cho-jin told them they were protected by a magic shield so no physical harm could come from outside. Kim Lee-gun called Kim Joo-hyuk closer and asked if he could handle these monsters alone. This guy looked tough, but wasn't really. He wanted to embarrass Kim Joo-hyuk and lower his pride because for students, they mainly saw monsters in books and had never encountered them in real life. It was no surprise that he was scared. Don't pretend to consider it, just refuse. I'll start when he hesitates, that's what he wanted. Kim Joo-hyuk thought for a long while and then gave a sly smile which made the instructor quite angry. He angrily told Kim Joo-hyuk to just do it. But why would any young man be foolish enough to do such things? This being the first day, he looked straight at him and asked what the reward for this test was. Kim Lee-gun was taken aback for a moment, but then agreed to propose a deal. So a reward like this, if you handle all the monsters, I'll do anything you want within reason. Oh, now we understand each other a bit better. Although it was a bit lacking, it was acceptable. Kim Joo-hyuk agreed to this condition. Without letting the instructor explain too much, the young man reached out for the sword behind him because how could he fight these monsters without a weapon, and so under the watchful eyes of the public. Kim Joo-hyuk continuously swung his sword, delivering precise attacks right at the weak points and slitting the throats of the monsters in one stroke, all while thinking about things from the past. It's been 300 years since I last held a sword, and I guess I'm not too bad at it. Back then, the world was thrown into chaos by monsters, and people used anything they could find as weapons. But the sword is still the most familiar weapon, just as I thought. The monsters are pretty simple. They're just NPCs. They're just cleverly created fake monsters while you're out there fighting fiercely. Kim Lee-gun is inside sweating bullets in fear. I can't believe it. The sword I handed to Kim Joo-hyuk is just an ordinary sword. It has no magical powers or anything, yet he can cut through everything so easily. It slices through the monsters like cutting through mud. Of course, not only was Kim Lee-gun surprised, but even the 3 young men from the prestigious families felt it was insane to finally take down the last monster. Kim Joo-hyuk slowly sheathed his sword and turned to the instructor, stating his request. I want to go down to the Constellation Room. You'll keep your word, right? A few hours later. Finally, the first class has come to an end. Kim Joo-hyuk listened to the lecture feeling so down that it was as if his soul was leaving his body, thinking he was being tortured. His original intention was just to take what he needed, then leave this place. The sooner the better. Yet here he is having to sit and listen to this nonsense. Thinking back, he never imagined going to school and had never been to one before. But it wasn't entirely pointless. Even though the class was boring, he did get some special information related to the constellations. In his past life, Kim Joo-hyuk didn't have anything like constellations. Speaking of which, constellations refer to the transformation of those with great futures into gods. Most constellations are related to hunters like their holy relics, and they grant them special powers. Valhalla in Korea is the 3rd largest academy in the world, with many constellation holy relics, and it seems everything about swordsmanship and monster hunting is useless to them. So Kim Joo-hyuk decided to head to the dormitory and seriously train in martial arts. This body is really weak, and his train of thought was suddenly interrupted. Cut off by the appearance of the second daughter of the Cho-jin family, Choi Arin, saying, "Teach me swordsmanship." What she said when she first saw Kim Joo-hyuk turning around, but as I said, he didn't like it, so the answer was no. She still stood there repeating that line once more. Kim Joo-hyuk was now out of patience. He shot her a rough look and yelled, "Are you deaf or something? Stop clinging to me. I have no intention of teaching you, so just go away." After saying that, the young man turned away, leaving the young lady standing there in shock. Meanwhile, in the teacher's room, the head coach was trying to encourage Kim Lee-gun. Comforting Kim Lee-gun after experiencing humiliation like a sardine, he still couldn't believe that Kim Joo-hyuk was really a high school student capable of wiping out 120 monsters. In the virtual combat room perfectly, while he had never seen a monster in real life, even though he had nothing special being an orphan from a small orphanage in the area. With a complicated background but extraordinary strength, Kim Lee-gun thought he was a fraud, but the head coach did not. It's like, what kind of fraud would be crazy enough to break into Valhalla and cause a ruckus at the entrance ceremony? It makes sense. Kim Lee-gun continued to complain about what would happen next year. If Kim Joo-hyuk isn't handled properly, it will be hard to control the 3 young men from those prestigious families. Head coach Lee Sang-cheon had a few words of sympathy, but then quickly turned to say he was lucky because a student from the Ventric family was in another class. Head coach Lee Sang-cheon had a few sympathetic words, but quickly turned to say that he was lucky because a student from a prominent family was in another class. Kim Lee felt a little relieved at this moment, knowing that his situation was better than the class next door because he heard that Jody Ventric, the heir of the Ventric family, had been expelled for causing trouble at the British Academy. The next day, he thought he would live a peaceful, normal student life, but it seemed fate was tied to drama, so he was being noticed everywhere while thinking about a wealthy future. Suddenly, the name Jody Ventric from the notorious Ventric family and his entourage, Yuri Zafelix, popped into his mind because of the reincarnation, so of course Kim was off to Australia. He had no idea who this guy was, and as he approached, he would have to ask for his identity. Jody stared at him, thinking this guy was just an arrogant, ignorant fool. He had never even heard of the Ventric family. Without beating around the bush, Jody went straight to the point with an ambitious look, tempting him by asking if he wanted to become stronger. In most family branches, it's usually harder to gain power and wealth than in the direct line. However, the Ventric family had a representation that was a guardian constellation. This set them apart from other families, as there would typically be a high-level guardian constellation or an S-class one protecting the family, and they would directly choose a member from the constellation. They would grant them power and protection, but with the Ventric family, they decided to form a pact with a family member who was not a constellation. This was a way to help the chosen one establish a pact without facing opposition from the constellations, and it was precisely because of this unique choice. The Ventric family held a lot of power across Europe. If you were a member of the Ventric family, you could choose a fake pact regardless of your lineage. What does that mean? So the branch family could also gain power within the family because the person supported by those powers from his family had become too arrogant. Not long ago. Due to the chaos at the British Academy, he had been expelled, and to make up for that incident, he intended to recruit Kim Joo-hyuk, who was the center of the opening ceremony, to his side. If you come under my wing, I'll take you to the constellation of the family, and before he could finish, he was immediately cut off. What's up, you idiot? Do I look stupid to you? You're not even interested in me. All I've seen from you is bragging, and now you're saying such foolish things. You're definitely an idiot. Am I wrong? Because it was the first time he had been insulted like that. He was furious and wanted to confront this ignorant jerk. But before he could do anything, Sukana intervened. A sharp voice rang out from behind. Get away from Robin Vengeance. Humiliated, he turned around, glaring at the teacher. Did you just call my full name? But the teacher was no pushover either, responding, This isn't the British Academy, it's Valhalla. I don't care how powerful the Ventric family is. If you're studying here, you have to listen to me, your advisor. Being slapped in the face, Roxane couldn't do anything more, so he had to sulk away in frustration. After class, Kim Joo-hyuk felt quite bored. He hadn't gathered any more information related to the constellation today. Instead, he got involved with an idiot who was cursing and bothering him, while behind him, Choi Aran appeared like a ghost coming and going. She suddenly showed up with the same line, "Teach me your skills." This made Kim Joo-hyuk raise a big question mark. He turned to her, threatening, "Haven't you seen me humiliated enough at the Valhalla Academy dorm?" The luxury room was humiliated by that orphan left with nowhere to turn in front of everyone. Out of sheer rage, he smashed everything in the room, then grabbed Juji by the hair and slammed her head down hard on the ground, demanding, "Do you still think you're a girl? The royal heir, huh? Should I throw you out of the house? Get in touch with Gisera. There are a few guys who need special care." Also, the son of the rising family in Class 2 told Loris he wanted to meet him at Kim Joo-hyuk's room, even though it was quite late, but he was still diligently studying. "Oh no, not exercising, but halfway there my wings broke panting like a dog. This body is really something. Trash that I can't use magic on anymore." Suddenly, Kim Joo-hyuk remembered the deal he made with Choi Aran earlier just to find a way to get rid of her. He carelessly asked for 10,000,000,001 during class, thinking Choi Aran would hesitate, but no, she lacked nothing but money. She immediately asked for Kim Joo-hyuk's flip-flops. Then she transferred 100,000,000,001 into his account in a heartbeat, but Kim Joo-hyuk still hesitated to accept it, smiling brightly, saying, "I will never get up." In fact, he was really surprised that a student like her could instantly transfer 100,000,000,001. Kim Joo-hyuk stroked his chin, pondering if he should teach her. Then he wouldn't have to reveal all his secrets. That's a huge amount of money, after all. Anyway, it's just money. I can earn it myself, so it's fine, even though my mana is pitifully low, saying that he prepared his gear and packed his bags ready to execute a billion-dollar deal. Let's go find the secret vault. Before entering this school, he had checked around it, but most of the records hidden 300 years ago had been destroyed. According to his research, there were still at least 4 records here, and he was sure they were on the Valhalla mountain, as the locations of the records could be determined by the reaction of the magical stone he carried. Therefore, Kim Joo-hyuk tried hard to search for them with the little magic he had. Tada with that effort. He found them. A beam of light appeared on the ground. Kim Joo-hyuk quickly started digging, cursing this weak body as he worked. If I had known it would be this hard, I would have buried it in a shallower place. And if it weren't for the Tower of Destruction 300 years ago, I wouldn't be suffering like this now. The world was on the brink of destruction with no place to store all his material wealth, so Kim Joo-hyuk created the records and buried them all. Digging for a while until dawn, Kim Joo-hyuk finally reached the shell of the vault, but the locks were quite special. Ordinary keys wouldn't fit. He tried to channel a bit of mana to create a magical sequence and turned it into a perfect key that matched this style. He should quit being a hunter and become a thief instead. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately jumped down, looking at the pile of glittering gold and jewels in front of him, feeling ecstatic, even though they were all his. "Are you all still doing well, my children?" was all Kim Joo-hyuk could say at that moment. "Now I don't have to worry about money anymore. Now there's no need to worry about money anymore. Maybe I should sell this stuff. I might be richer than those families just to maintain the previous signs. I've infused a bit of magic into them for when I need to use them." Kim Joo-hyuk picked up the gemstones and absorbed all the magic from them just as he expected. The energy flooded into his body, creating a tingling, euphoric sensation that was indescribable. Now it's time to deal with this place. Kim Joo-hyuk wondered if he should leave behind the heavy gold bars and take the lighter, valuable gems instead. Carrying all this stuff is quite a burden, but it really is a burden. Kim Joo-hyuk arrived at class with no focus left for studying. His limbs felt like they were about to fall off. He lay exhausted on the table, completely ignoring Choi Aron sitting next to him, still asking that same old question, "Teach me swordsmanship." It made Kim Joo-hyuk wonder why she was so persistent. According to the information he got during his reincarnation, among the top 5 families, the Choi Jin family practiced swordsmanship, so the question was, why was she looking for him? With that question in mind, Choi Aron said she wanted to learn from him because she had never seen anyone wield a sword better than him. Kim Joo-hyuk continued to wonder, what about her father? He's the head of the Choi Jin family, right? Isn't he better at swordsmanship than I am? Just then, before Choi Aron could answer, the teacher outside opened the door and called for Kim Joo-hyuk to come to the teacher's room, mentioning something about the Constellation Room. The young man immediately grabbed his pants and ran after him, especially since he felt Aron's sincerity, so he threw a few words back at her before leaving. "See you at the training ground at 6 tomorrow morning." In the teacher's room, Kim Lee-gun quickly got to the point, saying that the request to enter the Constellation Room had been approved, but the condition was that he could only go to the basement. He wasn't allowed to enter any floor lower than the first. It sounded reasonable. Although he hesitated for a moment, Kim Joo-hyuk quickly agreed, not forgetting to ask the teacher when he could go in there. After some consideration, Kim Lee-gun said if possible, tonight would be great. Kim Lee-gun thought the student would make a fuss about not being allowed to go down to the second floor. But unexpectedly, he accepted cheerfully. That night, as promised, the teacher, looking handsome, led the boy to the treasure of Valhalla, the Constellation Room, which was very carefully guarded. Because it was so important that it made Valhalla one of the 3 greatest academies, Kim Joo-hyuk observed everything and couldn't help but marvel in his mind. Not only was the security tight, but the outer walls were as well. They were covered with all kinds of magic except for the entrance. Kim Joo-hyuk suddenly turned to the teacher and asked if it would be okay if he went down to the second floor. Kim Lee-gun felt a bit nervous after hearing that, and quickly replied before it was too late. "You won't become a criminal, but you will be expelled and you'll lose your memories before leaving the school." On the second floor, the magic of the constellation was very violent. If you touched it, your mind would shatter and you'd become insane. Now all his questions had been answered. Kim Joo-hyuk had 30 minutes to be inside. The notification about retrieving your weapon on the 3rd floor right room of Valhalla popped up in bright green. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't care about being expelled or anything else. He came to Valhalla for that, and the first thing was to get to the 3rd basement, but just a few steps in, he suddenly bumped into something. Suddenly, a system window appeared with a request, and it pulled Kim Joo-hyuk into a strange room. "It's been a while since I saw you, Kim." That's what he heard after being pulled away. And right in front of him was that bastard, the guardian of the Tower of Destruction, who had been waiting for 300 years. Was this a reunion? No, the guardian was still trying to continue speaking. But he got hit straight in the mouth hearing the smack. Kim Joo-hyuk was furious, wanting to blow his top, shouting at his opponent, "I'm so glad to see you again, you bastard!" The guardian tried to get up, waving his hands, telling Kim Joo-hyuk to calm down and let him explain, but there was no calmness here. Every time he spoke, Kim Joo-hyuk threw a punch. The guardian kept crying for help while Kim Joo-hyuk kept cursing. All that could be heard were the frantic screams, "Stop! Don't hit me! Wait, I'm going to die! Don't hit me! I'll hit you even more! I'm not the kind of person who uses my fists to talk, but in the case of someone like you, a destroyer of my future, it's different, you piece of trash. My wealth, my fame, all the time I spent training those little apprentices. I can't do anything but cover my face and take it." While Kim Joo-hyuk was resting to regain his strength, he struggled to get up and managed to say a few words. Wait, aren't you curious about where we are? At that moment, Kim Joo-hyuk suddenly panicked, wondering where he was and who he was. There was nothing around. The guardian finally had a chance to get up and said this was a fantasy world. More precisely, it was a relic space, and the form of the guardian that Kim Joo-hyuk was seeing was just an embodiment of that fantasy world. His real body had disappeared 300 years ago. A huge question mark appeared in Kim Joo-hyuk's mind, and he asked back, "Wait, are you saying you've always been in this relic?" The guardian knew it was time to freak out. He soared high, looking down with a proud expression. "That's right, Kim Joo-hyuk. You've become a constellation." But who thought constellations were cool? Kim Joo-hyuk turned and punched him hard, fed up with that disdainful attitude. 30 minutes had passed. He didn't know if he had collected anything yet, but Kim Joo-hyuk still had to go outside as per the rules. As soon as he saw the teacher, he put on a stern face and approached to interrogate him. "Did you do anything strange?" To avoid further trouble, Kim Joo-hyuk answered casually and quickly told him to get lost, as there were many strange things he needed to investigate at that moment. After beating the guardian up and down, he regained his composure and spoke civilly, using his fists to make him reveal everything that had happened. The guardian cried without tears, beaten to the point of having a swollen face. "After being killed by the teacher, I've been in this for 300 years without any power. I regained my memories after receiving a notification to contact the reincarnator Kim Joo-hyuk. That's how a suspicious person appeared, and I wonder, is this the work of the guy who turned me into the master of the Tower of Destruction?" Kim Joo-hyuk continued to press for the name that turned him into the master of the tower. "Who is it?" But it seemed the guardian didn't know that either. All his memories about that part had vanished. After saying that, the guardian turned to ask Kim Joo-hyuk what the notification he mentioned was about. The young man recalled that green screen. It requested to find weapons and memories, but he couldn't read the things below, because they were covered by some squares. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't remember what memories he had lost. He still had memories from the tower. The guardian pointed ahead, trying to find the key point to explain. Perhaps those were the memories that hadn't returned to the teacher's mind. "The teacher has found the weapon, so the memories will just come back on their own. The more I listen to that kid, the more I feel like it's all just a fantasy with weapons. I found the weapon, but the teacher still doesn't get it. He's waiting for me to continue, right? This space is inside the world of 4 weapons that have become sacred relics, and I've turned into a constellation. It's just because I used the sacred relic." Kim Joo-hyuk, after hearing that, felt like he was going crazy. He rushed in to punch the kid again just like that. At this point, Kim Joo-hyuk had a rough understanding of things. The teacher used to be his student but was turned into the master of the tower by some force, and to save the world he killed him, and now he has been revived. Living as a spirit in the Sword Village for the past 300 years, and more importantly, that weapon of his in the Sword Village has become a sacred relic, and inside it there's even a constellation. A really bizarre situation. Kim Joo-hyuk wanted to destroy it and just forget about it, but it seems like even though it's weakened, it can still hold up. The teacher is known as the Annihilator, so let's leave it for now. I guess only the one who possesses the Sword Village would know. A notification window just popped up. My head is pounding from a jumble of information when suddenly my train of thought is interrupted by some thugs in front of me with the blonde guy acting all tough. Cracking his knuckles, he approached to intimidate me. "You're the top student from the opening ceremony, Kim Joo-hyuk, right? The senior is standing right in front of you. Aren't you going to say hello? This guy is the eldest son of the Sunrise family, a second-year student at the Valhalla Academy. I thought he'd be scared seeing a senior, but not with Kim Joo-hyuk. He immediately retorted, "You think a bully like you has any juniors?" Humiliated by a lower-classman, one of them, filled with rage, stepped forward to deal with this newcomer, not realizing the difference between first and second years. Before he could finish his words, he received a kick right in the stomach. Kim Joo-hyuk excitedly looked at them with half an eye. He didn't like to talk much, he preferred action, so he cut the nonsense and attacked those thugs. Kim Joo-hyuk charged forward, showing them what a festival was like, taking down each one with punches and kicks until they were all flattened on the ground while some still stood there like statues. Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't let these guys leave empty-handed. He waved the sword village in his hand, feeling absolutely amazing. Come on, this is going to be fun. If you keep standing still like that, I'll crush your head. 3 hours ago, the eldest son of the Sunrise family, Loris Sunrise, a second-year student at the Valhalla Academy, was called by Roxane Benjic to help with some matters. Specifically, it was to deal with a first-year student, and in return there would be a reward that could help the Sunrise family. He agreed to let him use the weapon, and he'd be the one to clean up the mess. With such a simple proposal that brought great benefits, Loris agreed right away. He thought that even if he was the top of the first-year class, it didn't matter. First-year students were just first-year students. They couldn't be a match for second years. Because students at Valhalla have to reach the Constellation stage in the second semester of their first year and sign a contract with one of the constellations. After signing the contract, students are called contract holders, and once they become contract holders, they can use the energy of the constellation they signed with. Based on what he understood, Loris was confident that Kim Joo-hyuk came from an ordinary family without a guardian constellation, so this would be easy. Loris thought he could easily take him down before coming here. But now he understands what he's up against. Lorik felt fear, but he didn't say anything as he watched Kim Joo-hyuk approach, wondering what that strange sword technique was. It seemed like he didn't use much force, yet his opponent was hit with a powerful blow. Countless questions raced through his mind, but pride was stronger than fear, so he had to act tough while his underlings stood frozen like statues behind him. He hesitated, debating whether to charge in or not. He couldn't afford to lose so miserably. Lorik, feeling confident, shouted to his underlings to attack. "What are you afraid of? Those losers are just first-year students." He said that, but deep down he was terrified and felt like he might wet himself. Kim Joo-hyuk stood there waiting for the show to unfold, watching them flap their mouths while mocking the brave leader. Anyone who stands still will get hit first. As soon as he finished speaking, the young man moved forward, pressing the sword into his opponent's stomach and pushing him back, resulting in Loris being knocked out cold immediately. It was truly sad. He had boasted and ended up getting beaten anyway. After waiting for a while, since that jerk still hadn't opened his eyes, Kim Joo-hyuk had to physically shake that handsome face to wake him up. "Come on, who are you? Why did you bring your crew to beat me up?" Even though he had been beaten badly, Lorik gritted his teeth and refused to say a word, not wanting to waste more time. Kim Joo-hyuk decided to ignore them and instructed them to clean up before leaving. Frustrated, Lorik tried to shout after him to save a bit of his dignity. "Do you think you can go to school normally after doing this? Even if you are the top student in your first year, if everyone finds out about this, then you'll get expelled. Does this guy have no brain stealing and then crying foul?" Kim Joo-hyuk intended to not care, but he had to stay and make him understand. Whatever. You know what people will say if you blab about today, right? A bunch of second-year students coming to deal with a first-year student only to get beaten up themselves. Don't you feel embarrassed telling this story at school? Think carefully. If you still want to go to school and join the guild, you'd better keep your mouth shut. Meanwhile, Roxane in the dormitory was eagerly waiting for news about her enemy getting beaten up. Down in the fields, Lorik had just called, thinking he would receive good news, but what he heard was the complete opposite. "I won't get involved in this anymore." Robin tried to persuade his senior to report the beating to the academy management so that Kim Joo-hyuk would get reprimanded, promising to pay him back if he did. He even promised to pay the family as well, but with these gang leaders, money isn't everything. They still need honor, so the answer was no. Robin, frustrated, smashed his brand-new smartphone on the ground, shattering it, then turned to Juji, who was standing behind him. With wild eyes, he asked, "You've contacted Gisera, right? So where is that guy?" He seemed too familiar with situations like this. She calmly replied to him, "Yes, I informed him that you wanted to meet, but since it's far away, it might take some time for him to get here. In Mexico, at the Aripia Gisera Ventric Academy, there was a bully who specialized in picking on others. He received news from Robin about going to South Korea to deal with a guy named Kim Joo-hyuk, with the reward already prepared, received the news and was overjoyed, instantly breaking into a mischievous smile. The next day at 6 a.m. in the Valhalla training room, Kim Joo-hyuk, excited to carry a load of equipment for strength training, was getting ready to do some basic exercises when he was startled by a voice calling him, "Why are you here, teacher?" Kim Do-hyo suddenly broke into a cold sweat and asked back, "What, who? I was waiting for you to tell me where you were." Oh, it turned out to be the younger brother hiding in the sealed sword. Kim Do-hyo angrily swatted at him. "I'm surprised you managed to sneak out of there. I might just give you a beating and stuff you back in there." The younger brother, scared, promised that he wouldn't cause any trouble and revealed that he had left a copy of the sword there. Kim Do-hyo was quite curious about the copy. The younger brother said that since he woke up, he had lost all his powers, but in return he had gained this special ability. Although he didn't know why he had it while he was pondering, Erin appeared as she promised to teach swordsmanship to Kim Do-hyo. The young man said that they wouldn't be learning just yet. The first important task was to improve physical fitness, starting with warm-up exercises. If they could enhance their fitness, the amount of mana their bodies could absorb would increase and controlling mana would become easier. Kim Joo-hyuk felt that the current training methods of the youth were quite strange. They focused everything on mana control. Before their physical fitness and other things improved, even Erin over there was the same. Despite having a large amount of mana, their strength was only on par with a student wielding a sword, and so like a true coach, Kim Joo-hyuk began the training days as a priority. That morning was the main focus. Kim Do-hyo's class had a small written test supervised by the high-level trainer of Valhalla Lilia. The topic was about monsters from other worlds, and she had previously asked the class to self-study and read. They were to learn about the topic of monsters, so now it was time to test their knowledge on how to handle each type of monster. Everyone quickly wrote their answers on the exam paper and completed the test. Even though today's test wouldn't affect their overall grades, it would assess their ability to continue to the next class, so everyone was quite tense. Only Kim Do-hyo had something so wrong that even the younger brother had to exclaim in astonishment, "Are you sure you can write an answer like that?" In the teacher's lounge, the first-year teacher reviewed the tests and was quite satisfied. Lilia confidently told teacher Kim Lee-gun that it was just as she expected from the class. There were students from 5 famous families, and they all did very well, but that was just a second before disaster struck. The teacher hadn't even finished sipping his coffee before he spat it out. "Kim Do-hyo, did you dare to call this scrap of paper an answer?" The old lady, furious, crumpled the paper and turned to Kim Lee-gun, scolding him. "Not only is he lazy in doing the test, but he also mocks this class. This cannot be overlooked. In the next lesson, I will show him this test. Then I will educate him thoroughly. That monster is not easy to handle." And indeed, girls hold grudges just like that. A week later, in the simulated combat room, Lilia called Kim Joo-hyuk up for immediate questioning. She presented the 0-point paper right in front of the young man and asked him if he had really taken the test seriously. Kim Do-hyo, not understanding anything, muttered under his breath, "What the hell is wrong with this crazy lady?" He firmly replied that he had indeed taken the test seriously. The old lady was furious but maintained her composure. "The first question is, what is the best way to deal with a stone golem? How did you answer that question?" Kim Do-hyo still had that blank expression and replied, "Stab it in the stomach." The second question was, "When you see 8 goblins charging at you in the forest, write down what you would do." Kim Do-hyo didn't hesitate to pick up the test paper and read it out loud, starting with the first goblin charging at him. "You stab each one and send them down to hell. The teacher is furious, but there's nothing she can do." After arguing back and forth for a while, the teacher, too angry to say anything more, decided to give Kim Joo-hyuk a chance to prove what he said. "If you can take down this monster, as you wrote in the test, I will grade it again." I thought doing this would scare the student into begging for mercy, but Kim Joo-hyuk went straight to where the weapons were stored. He picked up a random sword and approached the stone monster in front of him, swinging his arm to attack, but then all you could hear was its painful growl. The sword had pierced right into its belly, and within seconds, the stone monster completely vanished. Kim Joo-hyuk turned back to look at the group, his face clearly showing surprise. "Just stabbed it in the belly, that's all." The students below were stunned for a few seconds, wondering how he could take down a stone monster with a regular sword without any magic. Witnessing this scene, the teacher no longer dared to boast and gently asked the boy how he did it. Kim Joo-hyuk looked at her with a questioning gaze. "Did you not see me do it?" "Just stab it once in the belly, that's all." Hearing that response felt like being insulted, as if saying, "Are you blind?" Lilia no longer felt ashamed, but found it completely unreasonable. She bit her nails, thinking of a ton of information. To take down a stone monster with a knife or sword, you would at least need a high-level weapon. So normally it would make sense to take down a stone monster with a strike from such a weapon, but he handled it with a regular sword. Just when she thought it was over, the teacher still wanted to verify the second question. So Kim Joo-hyuk was immediately transported to another scene. Before he could even assess the situation, a bunch of green goblins or simply goblins appeared right in front of him. It was quite difficult to handle them simply. If not done correctly, the ones in front would use their battle roar skill, and the other goblins would rush in all at once. Normally, powerful mages with strong skills would wipe them all out in one go or need to run far away instead of facing them. But that was for others, not for Kim Joo-hyuk. He didn't care how many there were or how they fought. He just held his sword and charged at the first one. A strike straight through the head from above painfully as the second beast roared and received a sword right in its throat, and one by one each goblin fell to Kim Joo-hyuk. He turned to the teacher and confidently replied, "I answered the second question correctly, didn't I?" At this point, the teacher was speechless, too stunned to say anything. The next day, as usual, Kim Joo-hyuk dragged Aaron to the training room to work on their physical strength. The girl, despite trying her best, still couldn't keep up. Lying flat on the ground, panting, Kim Joo-hyuk curiously asked her, "Aren't you supposed to be training too? Why are you just lying there like a dog? How can you fight against monsters like this?" Aaron, exhausted, tried to explain that she could use magic by borrowing power from the constellations. The protection was indeed as Kim Joo-hyuk predicted. Instead of training their physical strength, they focused on magical power, since relying on the constellations meant they wouldn't need to use physical strength. They would be fine if they borrowed enough power from the constellations. However, the risks were too great. What would happen if they got stuck in a maze or dungeon where magic was prohibited, or if they ran out of mana during a prolonged battle? And what if the protective constellations didn't lend their power? There were too many issues arising. Kim Joo-hyuk then let Aaron rest while he would train for another round. The beauty left, and at that moment he dared to speak up and interrupt. "However, the risks are too great. What will happen if you get stuck in a maze or a dungeon that prohibits magic, or if you run out of mana during a prolonged battle and the protective constellations don't lend their strength?" So many issues arise. Kim Joo-hyuk then let Aaron rest while he decided to train a bit more. The beauty left, and only then did he dare to speak up and interrupt. "I asked the master why he was helping her train. Turns out she was jumping around so much that it gave Kim Joo-hyuk a headache, so he finally agreed. While chatting, I glanced over and saw that muscle-obsessed guy, XEIC, was also here. And it seemed like he had been training quite a bit, judging by the way he walked away. Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't help but think that this guy seemed smarter than those who only focused on practicing magic. He then wondered about those constellations. What were they up to that was so mysterious? The old man could only respond with a shrug because he really didn't know. It was like he wanted to get punched, so he added a bonus for the teacher if he completed the new mission in the system. He could learn more about the constellations. Speaking of which, Kim Joo-hyuk hurriedly opened that damn window to check if there was any new information, and it mentioned needing the Great Forest Eye from the Hala family of Megai Arona to complete the mission. It sounded familiar, but it was the first time he had heard of the Great Forest Eye. It was the final destination he had to reach in the first semester. If it weren't for this damn mission, he would have rushed there after recovering his stamina. But it seemed he had to endure until then. No matter how foolish he felt, he still realized that until he completed the mission, he couldn't be expelled from the academy. His secrets needed to be kept hidden. Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of London at the Ventric Mansion, Adelia, the deputy head of the Ventric family, sat comfortably in her chair listening to her subordinate report on the situation. Desira had been called to South Korea by Roxine, and hearing those names made her head ache. Gizero Ventric, the troublesome child of the family, was the worst troublemaker. He had used the Ventric family name to cause numerous scandals. At 59, he had killed 5 people from the British Academy just because of an argument. By the time he was 20, his name had been completely erased from the Ventric family. He had lived in hiding for many years and was now looking to meet Roxil, knowing something was about to go down. Adelia immediately ordered someone to keep an eye on him before it was too late, and she didn't forget to send a message to Jock Jin if she found out what he was up to. He would be expelled from the family. For Adelia, she didn't like those who lived off the family's power without putting in any effort. That power was not meant for trash, it was meant for her alone. The next day, even though it was class time, Kim Joo-hyuk felt like his soul was hanging upside down on a branch, lost in thought. Suddenly, the girl at the desk above signaled him. Then she handed him a piece of paper. As soon as he picked it up and read it, his face changed and his attitude shifted in an instant. Because this week, the students were allowed to go out, so as soon as class ended, Kim Joo-hyuk quickly wrote a permission slip. Joo So-jun had been trailing behind him, stuttering and unable to say a word, which frustrated him even more, even though he politely replied to that note. The fact that she didn't respond was already annoying him. The girl just stood there, rambling nonsensically. Joo So-jun just wanted to ask Kim Joo-hyuk how he managed to pierce that rock spirit so easily. But as soon as the words left her mouth, she felt shy because it felt like she was insulting her own self-esteem. And before she could finish her question, the teacher burst in like a ghost, cutting her off, saying, "How did you kill that stone spirit?" Suddenly, the teacher appeared and stole the spotlight from the girl. It was truly ridiculous. Not only that, but the teacher also tried to recruit Kim Joo-hyuk to be her assistant, promising many privileges. Bursting in like a ghost, he demanded, "How did you manage to kill that stone goblin?" Suddenly, the aunt appeared, stealing the spotlight from her. It was truly a surprise, and not only that, the teacher even suggested that Kim Joo-hyuk become her assistant, which would come with many perks. Especially since there have been many ways to defeat monsters. Looking at the silhouettes of the two people leaving, Joo So-jun cried silently, so he decided not to ask anymore. The next day, as he had learned beforehand, Kim Joo-hyuk brought his pile of belongings to a night market to sell them. The reason he chose the night market was to keep his identity hidden. And there would be other things sold in this kind of illegal market that still exists because it was created and maintained by a protective constellation known as the Hidden Tyrant. Because it was created and actively maintained by a constellation. So high-level players have been using it openly. Even if it's illegal, the government shows no signs of cracking down. This is also the reason that helped him easily find a way to infiltrate it. Just as the online guide suggested, Kim Joo-hyuk soon found himself looking around feeling a bit strange, yet familiar with the purple sky and the cloudy moonlight. It was exactly like the night sky he had seen 300 years ago. Setting aside the moon and wind, Kim Joo-hyuk was bewildered to meet the staff member he had read about in that article. He pulled out a stack of 2,000,000,001 to pay the entrance fee to the market and was immediately welcomed like a VIP guest by this guy. Kim Joo-hyuk received a mask. And the information about the most reputable trader led him to Morris, who was known for buying at the best prices without wasting much time. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately pulled out a bag full of precious rings, thinking they were cheap items, so Morris initially seemed indifferent, but as soon as he picked them up to check, he was taken aback. "These are artifacts from the Age of Destruction. Are the others the same? Where did he get so many artifacts from?" Morris curiously asked where he got these things, but the rules of this place prohibit asking about personal matters, so of course Kim Joo-hyuk didn't answer. Then he urged him to check quickly and see how much he could pay. Morris stroked his chin, thought for a moment, and said he didn't know. He couldn't assess them because these artifacts were from the Age of Destruction, and he didn't have enough capital to buy them. Kim Joo-hyuk was quite surprised and tried to press him for a place to sell this pile. Maurice pointed towards the tall tower. "That's where the auction hall is located. However, it usually takes 2 to 3 weeks to get a turn because so many people have made reservations and you would need to come back to confirm." He received payment again, which was quite complicated and troublesome. Even though there was more money, Kim Joo-hyuk seemed dissatisfied and asked the old man if he could help him with the valuation. Maurice wrote down the number on the computer, too many zeros for the young man to count, even though he knew they were valuable in his previous life, so he kept them. But Kim Joo-hyuk didn't expect it to be worth so much. Maurice said that with his estimate, even if he sold his entire fortune, it would only be worth 3/4 of the total value of this place. Not wanting to deal with complications, Kim Joo-hyuk agreed to sell for that amount, making Morris unable to believe that artifacts from the Age of Destruction were being traded at such high prices due to their age. There was also a significant reason behind this, thanks to the constellations. The constellations began to appear after the age ended, reacting strangely to artifacts from that era. It is said that an ordinary person was able to make a pact with the constellations thanks to this artifact. Reacting strangely to the artifact from that era. It is said that an ordinary person was able to form a contract with the constellations thanks to this artifact. Maurice carefully examined the rings, watching the streams of mana flow through the magical details radiating from the items. He felt incredibly lucky. Being able to snag these bargains for such a small amount of money was a thrill. Just then, someone appeared, leaving Morris utterly astonished because he had registered anonymously to bid on the items and the market host had come to greet him personally. Looking at the items in Morris's hands, the host couldn't help but exclaim in amazement, as if the protective constellation really wanted that ring. After finishing the transaction, Kim quickly headed home, feeling overjoyed as he looked at the money in his account. No more financial worries for him. If he ran low, he could just take from the antique vault. He still had plenty left. Just then, his phone rang. When he answered, he was bombarded with words before he could even get a word in. It was Professor Lilia inviting him to lunch. Since he was already hungry and it was free, why not go? But people often say that food can be a source of humiliation. The professor kept rambling on about inviting him to be a teaching assistant, listing numerous benefits like scholarships and various allowances. He could even write a thesis with her. Then he would be honored at the prestigious Monster Research Association, and money would follow. Blah, blah, and he would get to go out twice a week instead of once a month. It was all too much, and Kim felt overwhelmed with no real benefits to be had. What he really needed to do now was head to the Great Forest Eye, and that was his only destination. In the final year assessment, even she, as a lecturer, couldn't help him. Kim flatly refused telling the professor he wouldn't be her assistant. He wouldn't be lecturing or writing a thesis with her, so she shouldn't get her hopes up. If he lost this opportunity, she suggested they could share information if he revealed a bit about how to attack various monsters. Kim was quite curious and asked what that information was, but he thought it might be something interesting. Instead, it turned out to be a few things about Choi Arin, which left him completely uninterested. After a hearty meal, Kim stood up and headed out. Before leaving, he was a bit curious and asked the professor why she had to be so strict with the students. They were still kids. She was harsh in teaching them as if hitting a sore spot, and Lilia began to explain at length, but in short, she believed she was a lecturer on monsters. It would be very bad if they didn't give their all. Normally, monster attacks would directly affect the students' survival rates, and the students couldn't even remember the basic attack moves. That's why she had to be strict with them. After hearing this, Kim boldly stated that was just her wish. Then he waved goodbye and said farewell at Sihyung, the private residence of the Choi Jin family, where the head of the Choi clan, John Seok-cho, called his eldest son Choi Jin Gyeon and his second daughter Choi Arin. He came to ask them about their plans before participating in the classification test. If they passed the test, they might have the opportunity to sign a contract through the sacred artifact. He criticized Wando, saying it was a ritual to become the heir of the clan. However, if they failed, they would be disqualified from the family as he opened the sword. With a stern expression, he looked at them and asked if they would participate. Both felt a bit intimidated, but since their father had said so, they agreed. The classification test would be held in 3 weeks, giving them plenty of time to prepare. On the way home, Choi Jin Gyeon seemed to have a low opinion of Arin, throwing out a few contemptuous and challenging remarks when she said she would participate in the classification test. Don't you see Dad's face? It seems like you really want to become the clan leader, huh? Look at you, the illegitimate child. I'm scared. Don't delude yourself into thinking you'll win the test. You can't even receive blessings from the constellation. How could you possibly defeat me, someone who has signed a contract? Have you given up on that idea? Then just keep draining the clan's money, and I'll make you pay it all back, my dear. A few days later, as time passed and the midterm exams approached, the homeroom teacher was passionately explaining the rules on the board and the penalties for failing the exam, while Kim Do-hyuk sat below, not hearing a word, lost in thoughts about distant things. All the exams in the hall had significant implications for both the midterms and finals. If he scored low, he would be expelled from school immediately, so Kim Do-hyuk felt a bit anxious. The practical test was too easy, but the written exam was a bit tricky. He needed to stick with this academy until the end of the semester to make it to Dalam, but the young man still didn't know what to do to achieve that. Suddenly, Kim Do-hyuk came up with an idea. He called out to his friend, "You've been attending most of the classes, right? So why don't you take the test for me?" His friend immediately refused, feeling quite unfair about it. But even if he refused, it would be the same. After a few threats from Kim Do-hyuk, he had no choice but to agree wholeheartedly after class ended. Arin had prepared her things long ago. She shyly approached Kim Do-hyuk to ask about practicing just when the young man also needed to train with a weapon a bit. So he would teach her a little about swordsmanship. Saying it was sword training might sound a bit complicated, but it was just about how to hold the sword, which was the basic movement every swordsman needed to know. According to Arin, it had been a while. Since training with Kim Do-hyuk, she hadn't touched her sword. Normally, she would always practice, but Kim Do-hyuk asked her to draw her sword. but it seemed like it wasn't right. He began to teach her bit by bit, focusing power into her ring and pinky fingers gripping the hilt tightly. At that moment, Aaron felt something different. There was no need to channel power into the sword, but it felt more secure and stable than holding the sword with both hands. "Now show me everything you've got with that sword." Kim Joo-hyuk continued to wait for her display of strength. Aaron's speed had significantly increased thanks to those days of intense training. Kim Joo-hyuk continuously instructed her on the movements to attack and how to channel power. Blah blah, and just as expected, Aaron was now much stronger. She silently thanked Kim Joo-hyuk for his help over the past time. An hour later, it seemed both of them were exhausted. Kim Joo-hyuk spoke up, telling her to stop here. "That's enough for today." Aaron, tired, plopped down on the ground looking at Kim Joo-hyuk standing there. A crazy thought flashed through her mind, and she asked him if he could practice with her next time. Kim Joo-hyuk thought for a moment. Sparring with Choi Aaron would definitely be a great learning experience, and teaching someone as talented as her would also be quite enjoyable. Since the opening ceremony, he had sensed it. She had a unique swordsmanship technique. Even using breath control techniques felt very different due to this special talent in swordsmanship. He could have rediscovered his own feelings. If it were 300 years ago, she would have been a valuable talent to be his disciple, but sadly that was not the case now. He wasn't free like that anymore. Feeling playful, he told her that he didn't want to spar anymore, thinking Aaron would whine and plead. But she simply said she understood. This made him feel a bit surprised. Aaron replied that since he was always right, she would listen to him no matter what. 2 weeks later at the Valhalla Stadium, all the first-year students gathered here. This made him a bit uneasy. Aaron replied that since he was always right, she would follow his lead no matter what. 2 weeks later at the Valhalla Stadium, all the first-year students gathered here. Everyone knew the reason except for one person, Kim Joo-hyuk, who wondered why he had to be here like this. The aunt, feeling bored and gloomy, sighed, saying that the homeroom teacher had talked about this 2 weeks ago. If only he could just punch that teacher a few times. Without making everyone wait too long, the head coach and the teachers stepped out to explain the rules of the midterm exam at Valhalla this time. The evaluation score for the midterm practical would be based on dungeon attacks. You all will form teams and enter an artificial dungeon. Anyone can join a team. I think the ideal number for each team is 8, but you can decide to add or reduce the number of people. The school will only evaluate everyone based on their level of contribution in the dungeon attack. And the exclusion criteria is 5 hours. If you can't pass the test within the allotted time, you will be eliminated. The difficulty level of the dungeon is F+. Now let's begin the exam. As the announcement ended, the students began to scramble in panic to form teams. The kids from the 5 families probably grasped the key points of the exam. The remaining students formed groups of 20, or some went in groups of 8. If they weren't balanced well, there would definitely be fights as soon as they stepped in. The dungeon had been scored, but there were exceptions. Everyone chose to participate in teams except for Kim Joo-hyuk, who decided to go solo. At this point, the game was easy for him. However, he wasn't the only one. Kim Joo-hyuk was quite surprised when Aaron still hadn't entered and was just standing there. Oh, it turned out she said that from now on she would follow his lead. Since he was going in alone, she would do the same. The others saw her and tried to persuade her to join them, but Aaron coldly refused. "Sorry, I'm going in alone. I can handle it." Joo-hyuk also said it wasn't too hard. That was what she told them before stepping in. At the Valhalla control room, the supervisors were monitoring and grading strictly, and the scores seemed low. Because the combat coach, Lee Sang-cheon, was the main grader. In his youth, he was known as the Dungeon Master, a legend with a 99% dungeon clearing rate. Therefore, he understood the core of dungeon attacks better than anyone else, which is why Lee Sang-cheon gave such scores. Observing the students, the old man seemed quite pleased. This year, there were quite a few talented individuals, especially Yoon So-jun, who had excellent combat skills and applied textbook strategies. He knew how to handle situations, skillfully positioning team members effectively and directing everyone to move to earn points, and above all, this kid formed a team with the team members during the battle to ensure they would complete this dungeon. Anyway, Yoon So-jun was quite good, but Sukana was a challenge for her this year because she ran into Kim Joo-hyuk, which tarnished her record. Mentioning Kim Joo-hyuk, the teacher immediately hit search. But, what the hell? It's strange that I don't see any names at all. Lee Sang-chun thinks this machine is broken. Can't it find all the information of the students who entered the dungeon? Just thinking about it feels off. The teacher opened the list of those who completed it to check, and it turns out it's right here. Sure enough, Kim Joo-hyuk's name was right in front of the teacher, who was shocked and couldn't believe that he soloed it, and his completion time was only 23 minutes and 32 seconds. Anyway, this has never happened in the Valhalla. The teacher didn't believe it, but he still had to review the footage to verify. 1, 2, then a whole bunch, and Kim Joo-hyuk took them down without missing a beat. After the goblins, there were the brainless ones. In just a few minutes, he stood right in front of the boss, a special beast created for the midterm exam. But Kim Joo-hyuk handled it with just one swift strike. His stats seemed like they were combined from 8 people. Looking at this scene, Lee Sang-chun smiled helplessly. It seemed that the top position in this exam belonged to Kim Joo-hyuk, and the test quickly came to an end. Some were happy, but others had to lean on their canes. Looking at the results board, the homeroom teacher was speechless. The head coach saw this and immediately explained. I guessed he would come out on top, but I didn't think he could actually pull it off. Dungeon diving alone without a scratch if he keeps developing and sticking to this path. South Korea has the potential to reclaim the title of the strongest contract holder, and Kim Lee-gun stuttered as he asked the head coach, feeling a bit impatient. So he just casually replied, maybe because it's been a while since any real talents showed up, I got a bit too excited and said that. But this isn't entirely a surprise. The name in second place, Choi Arin, is what really caught them off guard. Lee Sang-cheon never thought she would go solo. But the truth is, she still managed to finish it, even though it took some time, and she got quite a few injuries. Without hesitation, she told the homeroom teacher that if this test was about teamwork, Ju Sojun would definitely score higher, but Kim Joo-hyuk and Choi Arin got higher scores due to their contributions, but the results are in. We won't discuss it further, even though the teacher said so. But Kim Lee-gun still had some doubts. He had met the girl back when she was in the Cho-jin group, acting like a model student focused only on practicing swordsmanship, but now she had the idea of completing a dungeon alone. It was crazy. For a moment, he thought it was Kim Joo-hyuk's influence, but then he dismissed that ridiculous thought the next day, just as he expected. The ranking results left everyone, including the fans, in shock. Roxio Ventric looked at Kim Joo-hyuk's name displayed in front of him, feeling a mix of anxiety, and turned to ask his assistant beside him. Jisera is in South Korea, right? Call him immediately. Julia knows there's a score. But as a mere errand boy, he had to obediently follow along. That same day at the Jamsu restaurant in Seoul, Roxio rushed out to meet Jisera. Upon seeing him, the scar-faced guy waved hello, then immediately, as if starved, devoured a steak, chewing noisily while asking Jisera, "So the guy you want me to take care of is Kim Joo-hyuk." "What's he doing? I've been waiting forever to finally speak up," Roxil replied immediately. "It's nothing. He just annoys me because of his lowly background. Please send him back to where he belongs." "Oh, so he's a classist, thinking all beings are equal while he's the superior one." Jisera tried to finish his piece of beef and looked up to ask the guy, "Can I kill him?" Roxil calmly nodded, saying it was up to him. Jisera pointed at Julia, revealing that he had just killed an aunt from her family for being too nosy, making her tremble like a leaf. He then laughed maniacally. Then he instructed Roxil to prepare the payment. A week later, as the top scorer of the exam, Kim Joo-hyuk was allowed to go out a bit. The doctor, seeing this, kept nagging him. "Didn't the teacher already go out?" Not wanting to argue with this nosy guy, Kim Joo-hyuk said he needed to go retrieve some records in Suwon, grabbing his luggage and activating Google Maps. He wandered to a hill, planning to sit back, chill out, eat a piece of cake, and sip some tea when some guy interrupted him. Kim Joo-hyuk stopped and asked the guy in front of him about his background hometown and what the hell he was doing here. Jisera, of course, didn't answer. He ignored the question and started rambling. "Do you wonder why it's me who found you on this mountain and not someone else?" Kim Joo-hyuk obviously knew. "You used to be the Sword King, right? You're not that stupid. So you mean after finishing this, you'll leave here as if nothing happened?" It was like a well-cooked meal. They both understood each other perfectly, and immediately they went into a defensive stance, ready to fight. Kim Joo-hyuk dropped his backpack, and just as Jisera lunged forward with a punch, Kim Joo-hyuk swiftly dodged, causing the punch to slam into a tree in front of him, splitting it in half. Jisera was incredibly excited as he turned to his opponent and said, "Wow, you're pretty lucky you dodged that hit. If you hadn't dodged, then you know what your fate would be, right?" Kim Joo-hyuk scoffed in boredom and replied, "Lucky no I dodged because your move was just too slow." He glanced over at the mess the guy had caused over there. He wasn't stupid enough not to realize that this guy was definitely strong. In fact, this jerk might even be on par with or stronger than Oseo. Kim Joo-hyuk judged that he was too dangerous for him. This frail body couldn't withstand a single blow, so in the 36 stratagems, fleeing was the best option. He couldn't let the prey escape. Gisera excitedly chased after him, thinking it would be an easy catch. Unexpectedly, halfway through, Kim Joo-hyuk suddenly turned around and gave the guy a punch to the face, sending him crashing to the ground. "You have to hit back," Kim Joo-hyuk grinned wickedly. He raised his foot and stomped down hard onto the guy's face. "Oh, please, God!" Gisera gritted his teeth and twisted his body to dodge the blow. Otherwise, he'd be heading for surgery. The guy, furious, got up and wiped the blood from his nose, grinding his teeth and cursing, "You bastard, what you just did surprised me." Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't backing down either, replying, "In a moment you must have realized I'm the top ranker at Valhalla." Gisera fell silent upon hearing this. He knew, but he didn't understand. "What kind of drugs did you take to get so strong the members of the Ventric family use their talents to enhance their abilities? Their fighting skills, even just a bit of that family talent, are a natural gift for creating pharmaceuticals." Gisera could easily use any kind of medicine given to him. His parents had him take hundreds of thousands of bottles of enhancement drugs, so by the age of 16, he was stronger than an adult. His parents wanted to use him to gain recognition from the family. But once he had grown enough wings, Gisera didn't want to live his life under their control, so he sent his parents away and was expelled from the family. By someone who claimed to be the leader, yet Gisera didn't care. In this dark world, whenever he received a commission, most problems could be solved. With money, and he was even bolder after severing ties with the family. When he received a commission from Rock Zil, he even offered cash. But thinking back, he found himself more interested in Kim Joo-hyuk, so he just asked for his life, lightly wondering what it would be like to play with the top guy in the entrance exam. And to be considered a madman for saying such insulting things. How fun would it be to eliminate all the spies from the association? However, when facing Kim Joo-hyuk, he had another question. Who the hell is this guy? Gisera was silent for a few seconds before suddenly speaking up. "Hey, what kind of drugs are you using to be this strong?" "I don't think it's any cheap pharmaceuticals. A guy like you, an orphan, has enough money to buy them." Kim Joo-hyuk burst out laughing. He found it so funny that he had to hold his stomach for a while before replying, "He uses drugs, ha ha ha." "Oh, you idiot, what nonsense are you talking? So it turns out you're a guy who uses steroids." Gisera felt insulted, but stubbornly asked again, "Really, you're not using drugs to get strong?" The more Kim Joo-hyuk heard this idiot ramble, the more excited he got, wanting to jump in and fight. He was just warming up his shoulders and neck while replying, "Of course not. You moron, I got strong through hard work and training. In some ways, I can compare you to Oseo, but that's too rude to compare a naturally muscular person like me to a guy like you." Gisera felt more furious than a monkey eating chili. He pulled out a weapon, cursing under his breath. "You're done for now." He pulled out a weapon, cursing under his breath. "Damn it, you're done for." Maybe he was hallucinating from too much grass. Just as he pulled out his knife, surrounded by a surge of magical power, he was about to say something clever, but before he could open his mouth, he got hit right in the head, feeling a sharp pain. "You think I'm going to let you go that easily? You're really dumb, huh? What kind of idiot waits for their opponent to gather strength?" While he was beating the guy up, he was also cursing a storm. His mouth was running, but he had no points. Gisera raised his hand for help, asking to surrender, but this was nothing. Kim Joo-hyuk pressed his face close, grabbing the guy's hair and laughing maniacally. "You can't pass out yet, you dumb druggie! I was going to let you go, but the only thing you did was try to provoke me into a fight. You said you'd take care of me. So I can't let you go. Anyway, I have a few questions for you, so brace yourself." Looking at the fist in front of him, Gisera was terrified, his face pale, screaming in despair. "It's true that if you walk at night, you'll meet a ghost. You think you can compare with the ocean? Dream on, babe." At the same time, in the Valhalla dormitory, Roxil was eagerly waiting for good news from his senior. He was sure that by now Kim Joo-hyuk had already cast his spell. But he had no idea that the one who needed to buy a coffin was actually Gisera. Roxil cheerfully called Julia to get the car ready to clean up the mess when Gisera called. Roxil hurriedly grabbed the phone, excited to answer, "Yes, bro, have you dealt with him yet?" On the other end, there was silence, followed by painful moans. Then a familiar voice came through. "I bet you're completely confused about what's happening, huh? Just think about what your expression will be. Let me be the translator for your buddy. If I die, please light 2 incense sticks for me. Oh, wait for me." After hearing this, his face went pale and he hung up immediately, not giving Kim Joo-hyuk a chance to say another word. Now he was scared, worried that what he did would be exposed. Afraid of facing the consequences, he thought it was just a matter of time before the news reached the Ventric family. Rocky held his head, not saying a word, but deep down he was plotting to eliminate Kim. Do-hyuk once again thought that he was just a lowly commoner, so nothing would happen. You think I'm just a lowly commoner, so nothing will happen to me. Just give it some time and everything will be fine. After dealing with that blockhead, Kim Do-hoo continued. So the two of them kept on with their backpacks, searching for the relics. But the more they thought about it, the less they understood, so they asked the guy the teacher had just knocked out for forgetting his brain. Why don't you just kill Quach? Exhausted with his chatty student, he had to answer the question. If it were him in the past, he would have just knocked that guy out. But now he was just a high school student. That makes sense. However, there are a few things I'm quite worried about. I'm talking about that magic that guy was emitting earlier. It felt oddly familiar. If he could unleash more, I could confirm it. But I've encountered this before. Don't you feel anything? Oh, so it's Kim Do-hyuk's magic. He doesn't see anything special because he used to be a demon, so just ignore it. Returning to what the name Jacera revealed after having a few fingers broken, Kim Do-hyuk looked at him and gently asked, "Who sent you to find me? Oh, right, I remember now. I already knocked your jaw out of place, didn't I?" Then he shoved his hand into the guy's mouth and snapped his jaw back into position. "Now you can open your mouth." Jacera remained stubborn, but after seeing his fingers being broken one by one, he finally spoke up. "Roxio sent me. I'm Jacera from the Ventric clan. I took the job as a mercenary," he continued. "According to what he said, the Ventric clan is the first race to worship the blade of the bitch Mien, and he also has a pact with a constellation." Jacera confidently boasted, "If I had another 30 seconds to gather my strength, the outcome of this match would have been different." Hearing this name, his annoying chatter was giving him a headache. He was about to let him go if he showed remorse, but Kim Do-hyuk thought better of it. "It's best if you just keep quiet." He said that, and then snapped the guy's jaw back to its original position. The Ventric clan is a name I've heard before. Kim Do-hyuk immediately went online to search, and a slew of hot news articles popped up. Most of them weren't very flattering. Kim Do-hyuk was quite annoyed, so he didn't even need to look for notes anymore. He decided to settle the score with that jerk Ril and teach this scumbag a lesson. He came up with a bold idea for this day and age. We need to use high technology, not just brute strength. Luckily, he had recorded all of Jacera's confessions, so now he just needed to find a place to publish it. "This game is easy. You think you can handle me?" Kim Do-hyuk immediately called his Aunt Lilia for help. She thought he was calling to ask her to be his assistant, and eagerly picked up the phone. "That's not why I'm calling. Do you know any reporters?" Kim Do-hyuk interrupted her thoughts. The next day, news about the Ventric clan's conspiracy to murder a student in Valhalla quickly became hot. The content was embellished, but to sum it up, it still focused heavily on the Ventric clan and Ril, with fans eagerly discussing the drama non-stop. Looking at the results he created, Kim Do-hyuk smiled with satisfaction. This is the face of modern warfare. Even the old man had to praise him for being someone who lived 300 years ago. Adapting to modern culture, he had to say, was lightning fast. Back when he first reincarnated, Kim Do-hyuk faced many difficulties, but he had focused. He got used to everything by browsing forums and reading news, which is why he was so savvy now. After reading all the recently published articles, Kim Do-hyuk sighed in frustration. "But it's a pity. I just wanted to target Ril, but all the reporters are posting this and attacking the clan." Ventric, what he didn't expect was that because of this, the head of the clan had to hold a press conference to apologize. In front of the cameras, she showed a sincere attitude. But she denied the wrongdoing and refused to take responsibility, only expressing regret and promising to visit and personally apologize to the victim without any further explanation. Roxio watched the news, his face turning pale. Just then, his father called to inform him that he had to return home immediately under orders from the clan the next day for personal benefits to reduce his prison sentence. With only 5 years left, Jacera had sold himself out, claiming to be the mastermind behind the incident instead of that scumbag. He was transported like cargo on a prisoner ship across the Pacific Ocean to a prison tower created by a constellation of S rank. The prison could turn false contracts into ordinary humans. Jacera happily thought that all he needed to do was keep his mouth shut and let Joseph stay in the clan. If he could do that, they would reduce his sentence to 5 years. If not, it would be catastrophic. His train of thought was abruptly cut off. A voice from beside him sounded eerie. Indeed, it was an ugly face. Shisera barely looked up when the guy's head was cut off before he could leave a final word. At the Ventric mansion, Roxio's father, Eden, and his son were bowing respectfully before the person opposite them. "What are you planning to do now, Roxio?" she asked. The father and son quickly bowed their heads in apology, but that wasn't enough to soothe the clan head's wrath. If you kill someone and just apologize, this world would be in chaos. After hearing Robzil's explanation, the person opposite became even angrier. A tremendous wave of mana emanated, causing them to tremble in fear. She stepped closer, leaning into Roger Zill's face, and said, "What should we do now?" Roger is finally scared like a dog about to be put on the operating table. He kneels down and says he'll do anything to restore the family's honor. Listening to this guy is getting more and more ridiculous. The only way to restore the family's honor is to cut ties with him, right? Just hearing about cutting ties. Old man. Eden, who has been silent until now, intervenes, saying, "Isn't this punishment a bit harsh?" She turns to him, asking if he wants to be like that son of his. The old man falls silent, not daring to say a word. At this moment, she just wants to kill him or cut ties. With these two right away, but doing so would be like confessing that he is the one behind everything. After thinking for a moment, the head of the family reluctantly speaks up to dismiss him. "For now, I won't expel you. Just keep your mouth shut. After I meet Kim Joo-hyuk, I'll reconsider that. Now get out." Even though he was spared, Rob Gill isn't stupid enough not to realize that he will eventually be cut off. It's just that the media is involved now, so she can't do anything yet. So before that happens, he needs to do something. Because right now, there's nothing left. Rocky looks over at his dad and says, "You have to help me too, Dad." The old man has always spoiled his precious son, so he doesn't need to ask. He knows it all too well. He can only remind him to keep things discreet no matter what happens, truly a good father-son duo. A few days later, at the Van Hala Academy, upon hearing that the head of the Ventric family would personally come, Kim Joo-hyuk felt really annoyed. He didn't want to meet him at all. But in the end, under the advice of the head teacher, and because they are the family that invests the most in this academy, he reluctantly agreed. She walked in with an air of nobility, but Kim Joo-hyuk didn't care at all. "Nice to meet you, Kim Joo-hyuk. I am the head of the Ventric family, Adelia Ventric." Kim Joo-hyuk only replied with a few polite words. "Yeah, nice to meet you." They locked eyes awkwardly for a moment, and she was the first to speak. "We issued an official statement right after the attack, but unfortunately both the media and the public don't believe this information. So I want to tell you this. I also want to open up an opportunity for us to resolve this misunderstanding. Can you help us, Kim Joo-hyuk?" Oh my God, what a load of nonsense, he thought. This is truly ridiculous. Kim Joo-hyuk only replied with one word without thinking too much: no. Adelia laid out many benefits from full support until graduation to securing a job after school and paving a path to becoming a top hunter in Korea. Just hearing it was drool-worthy, but he was all about gold. "Hell no," Kim Joo-hyuk said, pointing directly at her and firing back. "I don't need any rewards or anything. I just want to see how you live with the shame that Rocky left on the name of the Ventric family." She was really angry now. No longer the superior demeanor she had before, replaced by a horrifying face as she spat out, "What a piece of trash! Who do you think you're talking to? I came to this filthy academy to make you comfortable, and you dare to act arrogant. Should I kill you right now? I wanted to be generous and give you a chance, and you just throw it away like that." What a mouthful of nonsense you're spewing. Sounds so cool and badass. Should I just kill you right here and now? I wanted to be generous and give you a chance, but you just threw it away like that. That mouth of yours sounds pretty cool, huh? But Kim Do-hoo isn't just some pushover. There's no way he's second to anyone. Didn't you say the Ventric family had nothing to do with the assassination? Are you targeting me? To add some spice to that lie. You want to pour a bunch of money and time into me, but now you want to kill me. Well, even if you do attack me, you won't be able to kill me, Adelia. She wanted to flip the table, but couldn't do anything, so she just stormed off. Before that, don't forget to remind Kim Joo-hyuk to remember my face. After everything calmed down, Bo-chi complained, asking if the teacher really needed to make such a big deal out of it. Even though I'm a constellation. I don't want to get involved in this nonsense. Just when he was angry, Kim Joo-hyuk found someone to vent his frustration on, who told him to be so chatty. The teacher was mad, so he dragged Bak Cho out to scold him, making him unable to lift his head, too exhausted with these rich kids. Kim Do-hoo decided to drag his weak body to the training room a bit early, but he was already a king. Drama is everywhere. Just as he arrived at the training ground, he bumped into the Choi Jin brothers arguing there. Standing by eavesdropping, he heard Choi Jin-gun looking down on Aaron, forcing her not to attend the entrance exam, and it made his chest tighten, so he had to step in, pointing straight at the other guy's face to show off, "You're the damn jerk. Why do you want to stop someone who has poured so much sweat and effort into training just to give up?" Suddenly, some idiot rushed out talking nonsense. Choi Jin-gun calmly asked who he was. "Do you know who my dad is to talk like that?" Kim Joo-hyuk didn't care about anyone's dad. "If I hate you, I'll curse you. If you want more, I'll give it back right away." Why are there so many jerks today who love to flaunt their fake power? I don't give a damn. Whether you're a king, president, or whatever, don't invade the academy's grounds and demand anything from a student. If you're done barking, then get lost. After cursing, he immediately turned to Choi Aaron to seek her approval. The girl who had been invisible until now eagerly agreed with both hands and feet, suddenly getting scolded in return. Choi Jin-gun didn't want to deal with them anymore, so he angrily walked away. Of course, he left behind a few parting words for his little sister, who would understand the situation when she checked later. Choi Aaron felt like she was drowning and had just grabbed a lifeline. She turned back to thank the support of Kim Joo-hyuk, but the thing is, Aaron was crazier than he thought. She emphasized that if it were her after cursing, she wouldn't just say to disappear, but would say, "You haven't even finished your words before I jumped in to interrupt and dragged you into the training room for a beating." Wasting too much time on that jerk already. A few days later, Kim Joo-hyuk brought his gear to the hill near Sehong to start the treasure hunt. The teacher, curious, asked quietly, "Haven't you found many artifacts and stones already? You've accumulated them in your old records." Why didn't he understand that human greed is bottomless? Of course, Kim Joo-hyuk did. But he still wanted to know how many more things were left in the remaining records, and he thought there might be some miraculous thing hidden inside if he found them. Then he could overcome the major weaknesses of this frail body. At the same time, at the Chojin clan, countless reporters and journalists were gathering there. They came because today is the day of the selection test for the clan. The clan leader Choi Jon-seok asked his two children one last time to make sure they were ready for the upcoming test. As Dad announced earlier, if they pass the selection test, they will be recognized as the clan's heirs. Failure will result in expulsion. Have both of you prepared? The answer, yes, pleased him, and he continued to explain the rules of the test. The task of this test is to find the twin swords hidden in the mountains. Whoever finds the twin swords and brings them before me will be recognized as the winner. In this test, it doesn't matter how you do it. But killing is strictly prohibited. Now let the test begin. The signal was given and Choi Aaron immediately dashed into the forest to search while her brother took his time. He had already laid out his plan. He just needed to wait for her to find the swords and then rush out to snatch them away, and everything would end smoothly with the position of clan leader firmly in his grasp. Truly, he's just a greedy slacker. If you don't work, you can only steal. True to his word, he quickly got to work on his dirty plan while the younger sibling was sniffing around exhausted from searching for the hidden twin swords. Then the older brother boldly emerged, asking unnecessary questions while she was busy tracking him with magical traces. "Who taught you that trick?" Choi Aaron was a good girl. Anyone who asked her would get a response, and this time she replied with 2 words, "Just exploring," then drew her sword ready for a solo battle. Her friend had taught her to relax. She loosened her entire body and used her fingertips and toes to weakly release magic, gradually spreading that magical energy throughout her body until she could feel the magic present. Even in every strand of her hair, feeling the magic slowly and steadily, and she could sense the magic emanating from those around her, making it easy to notice the remaining magic on the ground or in the air. It was truly a sight to behold, like a dog chasing its tail. But thanks to what Kim Joo-hyuk had taught her, she was getting closer to her goal. It was just that her bastard brother was blocking her way. Hearing the name of the one who insulted her earlier, Choi Jang-un sneered with disdain as he approached his younger sibling and mocked Kim Joo-hyuk. I know him. "Isn't he that shameless guy who hung out with you before? That guy looks dumb, but he has some skills, huh?" Insulting me is one thing, but insulting Kim Joo-hyuk is asking for trouble. Choi Aaron bit her lip and retorted, "Why are you here, someone like you?" Choi Jang-un felt like he was being scratched in just the right spot. He gleefully drew his sword and lunged forward. "You think I'm here for no reason? This is why." He thought his younger sister was still weak like a snail, so he acted all high and mighty, but just a few seconds into his bravado, reality hit him hard in the face. Choi Jang-un blocked the attack while wondering, wait, not only is she resisting, but she's also pushing me back. What the hell? Since when did she become this strong? Choi Arin kept attacking, swinging her sword without feeling tired. Choi Jiang was panting like a bull, lamenting, "Did you learn how to be a wild boar at school? I see you're hitting harder now." Choi Arin didn't care about these empty words. Choi Arin didn't care much for these empty words. Don't let this pure heart worry, just give up on searching and move on. Now he's really lost it. Getting hit by a girl and not being able to dodge and then being told to give up, who could stand that? Choi Jiang-un was furious. He kicked off to gain momentum. Then he charged straight in front of Choi Arin, assessing the situation right at that moment. He swung his sword upwards, losing his balance and falling to the ground while she dropped her weapon, quickly turning the hilt of her sword and thrusting it right into his stomach. Choi Jiang-un took the full combo and lay there stunned. She finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief, initially confident she would land at least one hit. But she never expected it to be such a fatal blow. There wasn't much time to think. Choi Arin picked up her weapon and prepared to take off, thinking, "You don't really believe you've won, do you?" The question from behind startled her, and for a few seconds she froze. When she turned around, the opponent was in a state of uncontrolled rage, a dark mana enveloping him. "You're a wicked one. Have you turned to darkness? Why?" Choi Arin looked at him and asked, but Choi Jiang-un remained silent. He charged at her with his sword aimed right for her vital spot, and she couldn't dodge in time, receiving a slash across her abdomen. It turned out he had joined a group called the Cult of Evil, the third most dangerous faction in the world, which explained his newfound strength. She clutched her wound and looked up at her brother with curious eyes. "Joining them is better. What about your life?" It was such a foolish question that it made the listener laugh. Choi Jiang-un, with the sword slung over his shoulder, replied straightforwardly, "Listen, I want ultimate power and strength. I want to escape from mundane needs to have it all." Then he went on a rant about his struggles as the eldest son of the Choi family. Jin had to be a perfect role model, and the only reason he was still in the Jinza group was because of his father's watchful eye. And he just wanted the title of clan leader. Moreover, the condition to join the cult was the family heirloom, the twin blades. If Choi Arin's sister hadn't participated in the first selection contest 15 years ago, he would have had that heirloom by now. But back then he was only 12 years old and couldn't control his desires, so before he could find the blades, he killed her on the mountain. But luck was not on his side. He still couldn't find the heirloom and was severely injured, failing that test. But now he was grown up and couldn't let mistakes happen again. Choi Jiang-un picked up his sword, his face full of excitement. "Send my regards to your sister." Arin could only sit there helplessly, waiting for death to come to her after all. Right now, she didn't have the strength to resist anymore. It's not over until it's over. Hanging by a thread, she prepared to take a light breath. Suddenly, Kim Joo-hyuk appeared like a deity, blocking the blade in an instant. He looked at the guy and exclaimed, "What the hell are you doing? What kind of crazy brother points a sword at his sister's throat?" As soon as he finished speaking, the guy was sent flying a few feet away. It turned out Kim Joo-hyuk had come to find treasure, which was right here, so he rushed in to stop him. Otherwise, Arin could only go home twice a month. Suddenly interrupted, Choi Jiang-un was furious, charging in while shouting, "This is my family's private matter, so get lost!" He was loud, but his swing still missed. Then he received a combo attack from Kim Joo-hyuk and fell immediately. He thought it was over, but no, he still managed to get back up. Choi Jiang-un stood up ready to fight again. Then she received a combo attack from Kim Joo-hyuk and immediately collapsed. Just when it seemed like that was it, he was still able to get back up and keep going while Choi Jiang-un stood up like a mountain. A massive surge of dark energy erupted from the sword, and the guy completely lost control, his mind filled only with death as he lunged at his opponent. "This bastard is just a freshman at the academy, and you think you can defeat the leader of a crime syndicate?" He charged forward with all his strength, shouting, "Kim Joo-hyuk is no pushover." Even though he attacked with a sword infused with magic, he still managed to dodge. And then he turned around to stab the self-proclaimed crime lord. Realizing he had no other choice, he pulled out a stone from his pocket and just started sucking on it. It turned out to be an artificial holy relic containing power from the constellation he had made a pact with Choi Jiang-un, which had just finished charging, unleashing a display of magic. It enveloped the entire sky, causing reporters and the head of the Choi Jin clan to panic, traditionally not getting involved in the selection test. But this situation was too dangerous, so he had no choice but to go and take a look. The father was worried while the son was the source of the problem. Choi Jiang-un excitedly said, "This is a special effect, part of the power I gained from my pact with the constellation." "This will be your grave," he said, followed by a series of announcements about the constellation's appearance. The destroyer dragon recognized the holy relic and descended baring its fangs as if it hadn't been this excited in a long time. The destroyer dragon rambled on board. The dragon activated its gluttonous eye skill, but facing Kim Joo-hyuk, it hesitated and quickly retracted its gaze, then activated the eye again as if it were having a nervous breakdown. The more it looked at Kim Joo-hyuk, the more panicked it became, to the point of rejecting the call of the holy relic, breaking the pact, and fleeing quickly. Otherwise, even the Constellation would be in trouble. Kim Joo-hyuk watched the guy who was bewildered using his sword to give him a surprise attack at the residence of the Dragon King fan club president, where he was swatted around by that dragon. For causing such a big mess, he suddenly got yelled at without knowing why, and all he could do was bow his head, grit his teeth, and endure vowing to find out what was going on. What could have scared the Constellation so much? After finding his stuff, Kim Joo-hyuk hurried back to his dorm, holding the divine martial arts book in his hands, feeling overjoyed. He hugged it and took a deep breath. This book contained breathing techniques for cultivating energy that could significantly boost a person's magical power. Curious, he asked if it was different from the technique his teacher used in his previous life. Kim Joo-hyuk excitedly replied that the breathing technique he used before was just a useless version. When he was weak, he just randomly bought one at the market and mastered it until the end. It wasn't anything impressive. Batcher, hearing this, felt a bit intimidated, thinking about how he had climbed to the top of the server and still humbled himself. It was that simple. If he got his hands on something good, he would probably wipe out everyone. Before finding the divine martial arts, Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't change his breathing technique anymore because the old one was ingrained in him. So when he fought Batcher, he was defeated, but not now. He would start anew in this life with a new cultivation method. Kim Joo-hyuk smirked, stroking the book mysteriously, having already thought out a new plan in his head. I'll take a break from physical training for a while because I need to learn the divine martial arts first. He thought happily until his train of thought was suddenly interrupted by Ba, who curiously asked about the ending from before on the mountain. Was there a happy ending? Kim Joo-hyuk, overflowing with confidence, said he had heard someone, so he left. He also reminded Aaron carefully not to expose him so nothing would happen. Only the Choi Jin clan was in trouble. The press had arrived to cover the selection test for the heir of the clan, so the event was quickly reported in the news. The Choi Jin clan had done something shameful. It was no surprise they colluded with the worst criminal gang in the world, as the reporters wrote about the fan club. However, that wasn't all. Besides Choi Jang-un being handed over to the police, the association also sent them a letter as a warning. But in the midst of misfortune, there was also some good luck. Erin's injuries weren't too severe. She was taken for treatment, and a few articles mentioned her as a hero for defeating a devoted member. The situation was quite complicated, but it seemed the press was supporting this. One subordinate, seeing the clan leader still a bit worried, spoke up. "Isn't it a relief, sir? This selection test ended in chaos." But the next clan leader had already been determined. These articles would help her firmly establish her position as the heir. The old man felt that way too, but still had some doubts about the matter. Aaron had managed to defeat Jang-un herself. A few days later, she seemed to have recovered from the recent accident. However, she couldn't continue training with Kim Joo-hyuk anymore because her current health didn't allow it. He was also busy with his own breathing issues, so he didn't have time to push himself anymore. While recalling the key points, he remembered a little. A clue about the demonic energy that the guy, Rockdeal, and that Jang-un had used. The thing was, he still felt something was off. He needed to find a way to satisfy the second condition so that this mental barrier could be lifted. The second condition was the vision of the Great Forest. It was something that Kim Joo-hyuk could hardly touch because he could only access it during the final exam. Feeling bored and scratching his head, he thought about going to find the vision of the Great Forest. Just then, the teacher called him to the office to talk. Specifically, there was an inter-school competition organized for next month, so the school had considered selecting participants. They decided to choose those with the highest scores in this midterm exam. Naturally, Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't escape the fate of being sent off as a laborer. Before the teacher could even ask, Kim Joo-hyuk immediately replied nonchalantly, "I refuse." Kim Lee-gun, surprised, looked at him but didn't say anything in return. "I haven't even mentioned the important part yet. There are so many things to do at home, yet I have to sit here listening to him ramble on." Kim Joo-hyuk is urging him to hurry up about the 3 largest hunting training academies in the world. The Valhalla from South Korea, the Bailien from China, and the Tiet from the USA will each select a few first-year students as representatives to compete against each other in a duel. Escape from the maze and many other tests. It's making my head hurt. Kim Joo-hyuk is yawning, waiting for the exciting part that still hasn't come. He's about to refuse to listen anymore. The teacher is acting all mysterious and says, "But aren't you in desperate need of reaching the perspective of the Great Forest?" A question that immediately changed Kim Joo-hyuk's attitude. He's curious and waiting for him to continue. That place will be where the final exam and the interschool competition will take place. Basically, it won't be much different from the final exam, and of course anyone who passes that test will be exempt from the final exam. Sounds interesting. Isn't it better to say it up front to save time? If this condition is met, Kim Joo-hyuk naturally agrees to participate right away. At the same time, in the kingdom of Ong, the head of the Ventric family, Adelia is interrogating the servants about the plans they are executing and the whereabouts of the father and son. Robin, there's nothing to discuss about home matters, but the servants are eavesdropping on the outside world. So I should inform her of some shocking news. They say they are building a building out of paper bills in the market, quoting the words of that guy. To put it mildly, that means it's in cash. And according to him, Black Cat is the one directly responsible for this matter. But they say they take responsibility. Break Cat doesn't even know what his constellation is planning to do, just heard the constellation say this is a gift. A gift for someone, that's all. And his constellation even asked Break Cat to quickly find out the whereabouts of the person who sold the ring back then. As fast as possible the next day, while Kim Lee-gun was diligently working, head coach Lee Sang-cheon approached him to ask about the members of the competition. Have the interschool competitions been finalized yet? Kim Lee-gun nodded and said okay, then handed him the list of participants. Lee Sang-cheon was startled to see Kim Joo-hyuk's name on it, too. He couldn't believe that the cheeky kid agreed, and he seemed curious. Kim Lee-gun explained that initially he didn't want to participate, but when he learned it would take place. In the perspective of the Great Forest, his mind had suddenly changed, flipping faster than a pancake. Lee Sang-cheon didn't say anything, but he knew deep down that he was here for some mysterious purpose. As the head coach, he requested the teachers to arrange a free schedule for him to meet the young participants to give them some advice. All 5 participants were present: Oh Se-hyo, Joo So-jun, Choi, Do Young-jin, and Kim Joo-hyuk. The teacher immediately got to the main issue, specifically that there were a total of 3 parts to the competition that needed to be completed. First was a one-on-one duel between the students, just like in the entrance exam. The second part was a team battle with 5 members from the academy forming a team. And they would face off against other students, but notably all 3 teams would compete at the same time, and the final part related to the perspective of the Great Forest, listening to what they needed. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately went silent, straining to listen so as not to miss a single word. Lee Sang-cheon briefly talked about the terrain of that forest. The perspective of the Great Forest is a maze, just as the name suggests. It is a forest full of trees. Unlike an ordinary forest, the entrance is heavily guarded. And it is designed in such a way that even a fly can't get through. The only way in is through the main gate, and each person's specific mission will be assigned that day, since there isn't much time left. The teacher continued to explain the specifics and the rules of the team battle, and once that was settled, they moved into the training process. At this point, Kim Joo-hyuk suddenly raised his hand to speak. "Can I train alone, sir?" The teacher agreed right away and even asked if anyone else wanted to join. Aaron had said that she would do as Kim Joo-hyuk did, so she also wanted to train in peace, and even participating in the competition was because he was involved. So she agreed to join the team. Once everything was settled, everyone quickly left. Unexpectedly, Aaron turned to Kim Joo-hyuk and asked if she should join the training. Kim Joo-hyuk was quite surprised but understood her current condition, so he offered some advice. In Aaron's mind at that moment, she had a rather peculiar intention. She wanted to become stronger alongside him and help him achieve what he wanted, just as he had helped her. A month after the first day of the interschool competition, the students from Valhalla all came to cheer and were very excited, including Robin Ventric, who also came to watch the show. Before that, he had used his father's money to hire a group of assassins with the mission to eliminate Kim Joo-hyuk. They were the Sam group from Encina, a veteran assassination team consisting of 3 members who had never failed together. But that was in the past. Now, facing Kim Joo-hyuk, it was a matter of luck. They had devised a plan to eliminate him on the 3rd day of the competition in the perspective of the Great Forest, by sneaking in behind another contestant, as they had received news that in that part of the competition there would only be surveillance cameras and no judges would step into the forest. To kick off the competition, the chairman of the Valhalla Council, Sim Doan, had a few words to say and introduced each representative from each school, looking at the kids below while the head coach, Lee Sang-cheon, felt. Cheon was a bit confused, lost in thought, when he was suddenly interrupted by Dung, the veteran guy Jack Rover, who had just seen his teammates and realized they were all third-rate. Last year, our school was no different, but Jack Robert confidently claimed that this year would definitely be different because this time, the son of the head of the contract forgers was also present, Logan J., and he had signed a contract with the destroyer of everything. Although he wasn't as skilled as his father, he could defeat an entire adult contract forger in no time. Lee Sang-cheon just nodded and coldly told his friend, "You'll understand that reaction soon enough, after you watch this match." The first match was between Kim Joo-hyuk from Valhalla and Logan from Heroes. The rules were basically that whoever defeated their opponent first would win. Even hitting weak points with weapons, the arena system would automatically minimize damage instead. It would send electric shocks causing pain to the target, so just go ahead and attack without any interference. Kim Joo-hyuk, who usually slept through class, was quite puzzled. Why was there a need to use a protective system here? The teacher, tired of waiting, explained to the clueless student that it was necessary to have fighting skills throughout Day 1 and Day 2 to participate in Day 3. The starting signal rang out, and Kim Joo-hyuk rushed in to attack first, but his punch was blocked. The opponent looked at him with half an eye and asked a question just for formality. "You think you're really strong, huh?" Kim Joo-hyuk politely replied a bit, then immediately changed his expression and challenged, "But how long do you think you can take my hits?" Saying that, he spun his fist and delivered a blow to the opponent's stomach. The guy lost his balance, clutching his stomach and stepping back, then used the destroyer's technique to charge forward. Kim Joo-hyuk lost a few strands of hair and quickly dodged to the side, kicking straight into the guy mercilessly. "What are you doing?" Logan said, clutching his stomach, trying to get back up. Even though he had only taken 2 hits, he felt like he was about to faint. He still had an ace up his sleeve, only to see Logan crouch down using his strength to smash the arena floor and lightly kick it, sending everything flying. It turned out he intended to use them as cover, to attack from the shadows, but Kim Joo-hyuk, with his keen eyes, quickly spotted him in the rubble. Then he delivered a fatal blow right to Logan's face, and the match ended just like that. In Jack Rover's astonishment, he had to exclaim that the kid was indeed a monster. The match continued with Kim Joo-hyuk continuously dominating, winning again and again without losing a single hair. Finally, in the finals, unexpectedly, he faced Choi Arin. The winner would receive a scholarship full of money, so she planned to withdraw. "I don't care who wins, but don't back out. Everyone is gathered here. We have to show our fighting abilities." Kim Joo-hyuk spoke up to make Arin reconsider, and of course the teacher said the students had to listen. Kim Joo-hyuk stretched and warmed up, promising to go easy on her, making sure she wouldn't get hurt. But this going easy was quite strange. The match ended with Choi Arin kissing the ground without missing a single hit. Even the referee had to complain that he was too ruthless. Kim Joo-hyuk insisted he had gone easy. He didn't hit her in the stomach. It was just a coincidence. It was just that her sword suddenly veered into his stomach, so he had to push it away, and the result was like this. Looking at her lying there, he felt he had become much stronger, and this girl was not far behind either. They still had to wait another day to reach the perspective of the Great Forest. He feels much stronger now, and this girl isn't far behind either. He still has to wait another day to reach the perspective of the Great Forest. Hu was a bit anxious, so he went to find the teacher to ask if he could move on to the next round after finishing early and talk about the match tomorrow. The teacher wasn't sure, so he pulled out the regulations, which mentioned some exceptions, but basically if the task was completed before the afternoon, or even earlier, students could take on the next task based on the teacher's decision after hearing this. His eyes lit up like car headlights, and he continued, "It says it's up to the teacher's discretion. What do you think? Can I move on to the next task?" The head coach was at a loss with this kid. He had to confirm again that as long as he finished early and went to the teacher's room, he could start a new task in the afternoon. For now, good night and don't linger around here anymore. The next day, inside the Yasan Sanctuary in Valhalla, the president announced the second task of the competition. It would be a team battle with 5 representatives from each school facing off against each other. In this mountainous region, because it was held in a rugged terrain, the audience would watch live through a 3-dimensional screen. Just a few minutes left until the competition began. Yet Kim Joo-hyuk still hadn't shown up, making the whole team quite anxious. Ju So-jun complained under her breath, cursing him for not knowing where he was stuck. As soon as she saw the opponent's figure appear in the distance, she raised her voice and shouted, "Do you know what time it is? You were supposed to arrive 30 minutes early. Did you not listen to the teacher's advice?" Sometimes she wanted to punch that little mouth, but because of that, Kim Joo-hyuk had to spell out the words. He scratched his head and apologized, saying he would handle everything. Ju So-jun immediately protested because this was a team game, not an individual task. It's personal time now. She even pointed at him, giving him a lecture, but knowing this little one was as hot-headed as a firecracker, Kim Joo-hyuk didn't bother arguing anymore and turned to ask the others if they had any opinions. Choi Arin suddenly raised her hand and insisted on going along, making Ju So-jun a bit disappointed, and so in the end, Ju So-jun could only stand there screaming in frustration at Kim Joo-hyuk. Hyo decided to solo before the competition started turning back to tell her to quiet down because it was too annoying. He still had to prepare for the afternoon's tasks at Lam Nan. The announcement to start rang out immediately, and it didn't take long for Kim Joo-hyuk to find the Bak Lean team and shower them with a few loving strikes in just a few minutes. The whole team was knocked out early by him to have time to rest, and the news that Bak Lean was eliminated quickly reached all players, making them sweat profusely after reading it. It had only been 10 minutes. While still lost in thought, a team member reported feeling magic nearby. It brought him back to reality, and it wasn't a group, but just one person. Logan reacted quickly, immediately directing everyone to defensive positions. The two leaders raised magical shields, preparing to enhance their abilities while the others reinforced the shields. He was ready to attack. Everything was prepared as if they were about to face a massive army. One team member, confused, spoke up, "But there's only one person. Do we really need to do all this?" Those who had fought Kim Joo-hyuk quickly responded to explain to her that his strength was not just that of an ordinary high school student. While they were still waiting, a team member announced that the magic was slowly fading, thinking they had already left. Logan let out a sigh of relief, unaware that Kim Joo-hyuk had been watching from the tree all along. When they let their guard down, he suddenly swooped down. He landed a blow right in the face of the opposing team's captain, and before the others could react, he knocked them out without them even landing a hit. Indeed, gender equality was in play. Each of them got a hit, and it was game over. Seeing the notification that Dung had been eliminated, Kim Joo-hyuk excitedly exclaimed that now he could move on to the next mission. Over at the Valhalla monitoring room, the teachers still couldn't accept the fact that the match ended in just 23 minutes with Kim Joo-hyuk handling everything alone. One of them couldn't hold back and spoke up, saying that he had already taken 20 minutes to walk over. The battle only lasted 3 minutes. A national-level competition allowed Kim Joo-hyuk to dominate like this. It was truly embarrassing. The academy president stroked his chin, looking worried that today's schedule was completely ruined and trouble was brewing. The head coach, hearing this, took out the rules and mentioned starting the next game on the same day if there was enough time. There was no other choice. The president and the other teachers had no choice but to agree to this plan. In the waiting room, the Valhalla Academy team sat in silence, feeling dejected and not saying a word to each other. Ju So-jun had been glaring at Kim Joo-hyuk with a resentful look, planning to step forward since the coach had assigned her to lead, but before she could do anything, he had already taken over. Plus, she had lost to Choi Arin in the match yesterday, which made her even angrier. Ju So-jun had heard that Kim Joo-hyuk had trained Choi Arin, so she was considering lowering herself a bit to ask him for help. Just at that moment, the announcement for the next mission was sent out a day earlier than expected to all students before everyone prepared to leave. Kim Joo-hyuk told them a few things. He would go to the Valhalla himself, and they all had to survive on their own. If they ran into trouble, they could call him. He finished speaking. Ju So-jun was still staring at Kim Joo-hyuk and had to speak up, hinting at what she wanted to say. Suddenly, the little bird got a nickname, and she snapped at him. At 1 p.m., all participating teams were present at the entrance of the maze, just like in previous missions, and the audience could follow along on the screen before entering. The president elaborated on the details of the game and the evaluation factors. The Valhalla maze was like a forest with massive trees. In this maze, there was a special environment where it rained non-stop, and the monsters were of a relatively low level, so they posed little danger. The rain and dense bushes were the most threatening factors. The game's content was to test each person's survival skills. After 5 hours, the better their health condition, the more points they would earn. The president emphasized that any form of combat between teams was strictly prohibited. "Now let's get started," the teacher shouted. At the same time, in an abandoned warehouse of Valhalla, the 3 members of the assassination team had gathered and were preparing to enter the Valhalla maze. The match had only just begun for a few minutes when suddenly all the surveillance cameras in the maze malfunctioned and communication with the main gate was cut off. The head coach realized this was a serious issue. The lives of all the students in the maze were in danger, so he suggested that the others enter the Valhalla maze to rescue them. Upon arrival, they were met with a horrifying scene. The guards were lifeless and the entrance was destroyed with debris everywhere. It took about an hour to clear a path inside. Before Logan could react, he was stabbed in the stomach by Anne. He was stunned and confused, wondering how Anne had gotten behind him, who smirked and said, "You still don't get it, huh?" Looking ahead, he exclaimed, "What the hell? Why are there 2 of you?" Logan was shocked, his face pale, as Anne in front of him grinned wickedly and stabbed him again in the chest. This is called a clone. Logan had no chance to defend himself. Logan is shocked, his face pale. And in front of him is a sinister smile, then he plunges a knife into his chest. This is called a clone, and Logan has no chance to defend himself. Lisa asked if Anne had already taken Logan down. But Anne said he had intentionally stabbed him to slowly take him down for fun. Just then, the red-haired girl popped out from the crowd, and San noticed there was another witness. He clicked his tongue. "Just deal with everything." Anne told Lisa to just use her hiding skills to keep it together. Lisa told him to wrap it up quickly. Anne grinned wickedly and said he knew. Then he charged straight towards the red-haired girl, while Kim Joo-hyuk flew like a bird through the forest to find Dai Lam Valhalla at the house of Megai Arona with one condition to satisfy: there must be a village sword. The so-called house of Megai Arona. Is it the house right at the entrance? But all there were trees, not a single weak house. Just as he zipped by, he saw a blonde girl standing there daydreaming and then panicked, screaming in the street. Of course, Anne wouldn't stop. Just because of one scream. 3 students from the Dungjia team had fallen, and the assassin team Sam-san was really something. It was tough. Lisa was too exhausted dealing with one person, and another witness popped up. Even Anne was starting to feel annoyed. Just then, he spotted someone. It was their target this time. Kim Joo-hyuk, the target, had come on his own. It seemed that when I stabbed them, they screamed, so he must have heard and run over here. Because of this interesting situation, I didn't kill him. Joo-hyuk noticed the 2 words target in this group's words. Looking at the people who had been stabbed lying on the ground, Joo-hyuk told the blonde girl to clean up the others. So she should stop the bleeding for the injured first. They're still alive. Just a glance showed that the guy hadn't stabbed in a vital spot for the victim to immediately pass out, or he had intentionally let them bleed out, which was indeed a twisted preference. I'm in a really bad mood, so answer my question: did you guys sneak in here? If so, I'll end this quietly. And couldn't believe what he just heard from a student like this. He was sure that the guy didn't realize his situation. What scene he was in to be so loud right now? Joo-hyuk had been isolated in this maze. The only entrance and exit of this maze had been completely destroyed by us. Even the surveillance drones, too. So will the teachers find out? Let's see. Anyway, they can't get in here immediately. Since the entrance has completely collapsed, it would probably take an hour to clear the rubble blocking the way, and seemed very confident in the plan they had made. But with just that 1 hour of exploration, it was the maximum time to wander in this vast forest and figure out what the hell Joo-hyuk was doing. But he was ready to send you back to hell with that clone technique again. But this time it was different. This time his knife was stuck in the ground instead of piercing someone like before. Joo-hyuk had teleported away and I didn't know where he went. You guys are really done for now. Just as Joo-hyuk finished his sentence, his sword struck straight into my nose, causing blood to spurt out, and I was thrown back, crashing to the ground. Lisa looked on in shock while the 2 girls were still... While they were spraying glue, he dashed from behind and decisively hit each of them on the head, so all 3 members of the Sam-san group were knocked out by Kim Joo-hyuk and had to lie on the ground. This is it. Blonde hair, hurry up and use your magic to stop the bleeding for those who fainted. If I can handle it alone, then run west. There are students from Van Ha over there. The blonde was doing her best, and at that moment I woke up to see my 2 teammates lying flat beside me, panicking. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately criticized his teammates for being so weak. I quickly raised my knife and said, "Before you hit me, answer me. You said I was the target, so who's the client?" Even though I was wicked, I had principles as an assassin. There's no way I'm revealing the client's identity. This is the first time I've met someone so tight-lipped, so it's a bit awkward. It's also my first time encountering someone so stubborn, so I'm just a bit surprised. This time he would fight with real strength, but the clone technique couldn't ambush me. I was puzzled because the clone's attack had no physical form, so I didn't understand how this kid avoided it. Why do you have to sneak attack from behind like a coward? Why not fight me face to face? Why do you have to hit me right in the face? I was thinking of giving him no way to fix his nose or something. Kim Joo-hyuk stubbornly asked who the client was, but I firmly refused to say anything for the honor of an assassin. Then I'll just enjoy beating you up. Damn it, this guy is the real villain. When the head coach arrived, the students had gathered to treat each other's wounds, a scene that surprised the teachers. Teacher Jack was the first to react, rushing to where student Logan was to check on him. He had been treated, so aside from being a bit hard to move, he was fine. Jack Rover was overjoyed, literally in tears. Teacher Lai looked around with a frown and then turned to the students to ask what had happened. Logan recounted how they were ambushed by a group of 3 consisting of 1 guy and 2 girls. Lai guessed it was the Sam San group and quickly asked where they were now. Logan pointed to a tree nearby. That spot had Lisa and Anne unconscious. Kim Joo-hyuk had taken care of everything. Lee was stunned. Had that kid reached this level already? The ground around the Sam San group was dented, indicating they had taken quite a beating. While losing consciousness, I vaguely saw Kim Joo-hyuk fighting. It was truly amazing. Logan didn't hide his admiration from the bottom of his heart. He had completely overpowered the villains, and I hadn't even touched that kid when fighting them. He hadn't even unleashed half of his power yet, Logan said, sounding quite bitter. I still thought I was strong for a high school student, but it seems I've been too arrogant lately. Teacher Jack saw him like that and encouraged him to cheer up because Kim Joo-hyuk was just an outlier. But wait, if it's a group of 3, where's the other one? The blonde girl immediately said that Kim Joo-hyuk had taken him away. Just as he finished speaking, the girl with glasses was tossed back like a sack of rice returning to her homeland. She revealed everything about who was behind it and what the purpose was while Do-hyu stood with his hands in his pockets. He updates everyone on the situation and Lai Sang asks him if he's okay. Oh, the teacher is asking unnecessarily. Someone like Do-hyu wouldn't have any issues. Lai Sang reassures him that the details can wait until they return to the academy. The teachers will take the injured students to the hospital, while the Valhalla students should find Bai Lian and inform them that the interschool competition has ended. After being drenched in the rain, Kim Do-hyu can't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Today has been tough, so he doesn't hesitate to jump on the bed right away after catching the bad guys as the teacher used magic to attack. Is that the reason? The father starts getting curious and asks if Do-hyu has increased his magic power, which is why he used it to attack. Moreover, after a whole day of rolling around, the results aren't bad. It's the great forest perspective of Valhalla. The House of Megai Arona is indeed the gem in the House of Megai Arona, the trophy he tucked into his pocket like some monkey's treasure. No matter what, having this is still a close call. Time flies, doesn't it? Just kidding, thankfully it's done. Back to when they were still in that forest. The girl with glasses finally wakes up. Before she can even open her eyes, Kim Do-hyu calls her to get up. What abilities do you have, he asks, but she looks confused as if she just heard an alien speak. It's not a language of humanity, yet Do-hyu is still talking, not knowing where she belongs. But when it comes to goals or something like that, a typical assassin group usually has 1 fighter, 1 backup fighter, and 1 support person in the back. Isn't that how it's arranged? Wearing glasses and being rigid in a group of 3, the person in the back seems to be the support, not someone with skills related to direct assassination. What are her abilities? Wearing glasses, she told him to get lost, and she was far from saying that she was about to pull away when Do-hyu rushed in completely astonished that he stopped her. The spatial disruption is obvious. It's a power that creates a small space and moves into a larger one, right? Kim Do-hyu immediately grabbed her. Just right, using this ability helped me a bit. I want to find something, and if it goes smoothly, there won't be any issues when I say this. He flashed a not-so-friendly smile, and we all know what the result was. I have to thank that spatial teleportation ability. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't let her glasses go unharmed as he said he did this because she definitely wouldn't reveal which organization her team belonged to, or who the client was. Even so, Kim Joo-hyuk knew full well that those 3 assassins were from the Sam-san group, part of the evil Yusin, and the client was none other than Robin. He originally intended to leak the ambush information to the media like last time, but thought about the hassle of just barging into the Ventric house with his eyes closed like before. Who knows how many stitches I'll need, but anyway, I've already gotten what I needed. So the next thing to do is to face the lost memories through a deep sleep. Not just Joo-hyuk, but Batcher was also looking forward to regaining his memories. The notification window beside him was already popping up. If that's the case, then let's turn off the lights and go to sleep. What are you waiting for before sleeping? Ju-hyuk still firmly believed that he didn't have any lost memories at all. Whatever, let's see what I can find in my dreams. In my dream, you returned to the time in the Tower of Destruction after Kim Hyun said his final goodbye to the rock world just as the crushing weight was about to fall on you. It suddenly stopped. To be more precise, the entire space froze, a dark shadow encircling with an unseen eye, promising to remember your name and the names from that world. You protected them and said goodbye, but coming here? Even though Do-hoo woke from the dream, he still couldn't believe that what he saw in the dream actually happened. Dad, are you waiting for me without any memories surfacing? To ask the kid how things are on his side? Nothing at all. I seem to have once been a female tiger. What the hell, Dad? Of course I'm not a tiger like Do-hyuk thought. After all, he used to be the boss of the Tower of Destruction. So there's no way I could sell myself like that. And he doesn't see anything special in his memories, so that's that. Batcher doesn't see the strange things that Do-hyuk sees, does he? But whatever. After all, he's the one who chopped me up to end up like this. So you really don't remember anything about that name. Do you know anything that comes with that name? This I'm not so sure about, but to sum it up, this trip feels like a joke, just adding a few trivial memories that bring no benefit in that description. Carrying a name of the kid feels vague, too. Just at that moment, a notification window popped up again. This time, it was about the office in the Royal Palace. Ahala, the secret room of Ali Free Johnny. Let's find out the truth about the secret room of Ali Free Johnny in the Royal Palace. Ahala Ju-hyuk immediately thought of asking Lily about this palace that just got mentioned. The physical training room at Vala always has 3 regular members before class, Kim Ju-hyuk, Choi Arin, and Hyuk. But today Ju Sozyeon also came here. Seeing Hyuk, she was startled and asked why he was here. Can't you see I'm lifting weights? Why are you asking? Ma Shahu also wondered why she was here. Sojun shyly replied, well, it's probably because you're like me, even though it's a strong blow to my pride, but I want Kim Do-hoo to guide me unlike you. I still come here to train, and Kim Ju-hyuk has nothing to do with it. Hyuk even knew the reason why Sozyeon wanted Ju-hyuk to teach her. It's probably because she lost to Eri. Sozyeon bowed her head and admitted that was indeed the reason. Remembering the duel at the last inter-school competition, Ju Sozyeon kept attacking, but couldn't knock Choi Arin down. That girl was incredibly cold. With one strike, she split Ju Sozyeon's sword energy, poking at her pride. Ju Sozyeon unleashed 3 streams of sword energy, yet Choi Arin effortlessly dashed in, slicing straight at Ju Sozyeon's face. In that battle, Choi Arin was the victor. He has become much stronger since the opening ceremony, Du Sozyeon candidly admitted, but also believed it was thanks to Do-hoo, even though I've been diligently training my strength magic and sword skills. But apart from my family, I've never had anyone else guide me in swordsmanship or weight training. To build strength like that. It's not that Choi Arin is stronger than me, that's just how it is. Hyuk pondered for a moment and concluded that Ju Sozyeon should go ask Kim Ju-hyuk instead. Asking him wouldn't make any sense. Ju Sozyeon didn't want another pointless conversation like last time, so she was determined to push through her embarrassment and confront him. Ju Sozyeon approached, calling out to Kim Ju-hyuk, who was wiping sweat off his brow, and responded with a not-so-friendly attitude, asking what she wanted, you rude girl. Ju Sozyeon was taken aback that this guy dared to call her rude. But she held back, closed her eyes, and asked if he was the one guiding Choi Arin. Then she resolved to shout, I want you to teach me too, just like Choi Arin. At that moment, Instructor Lee Sang-cho also came to ask Kim Ju-hyuk if he was free. Kim Ju-hyuk directly ignored Ju Sozyeon to answer the coach, saying he still had a few strength exercises left, and asked if there was something up. Lee Sang-cho told him to wrap it up quickly and come see him. After finishing his shower, there was someone who really wanted to see him, desperately saying that if they couldn't meet now, there wouldn't be another chance. Kim Do-hoo found it strange and agreed with Instructor Lee. Ju Sozyeon stood by confused, as she was always left out like this. What bad luck, I want to cry. Hey, what's going on? If you want me to guide you, just ask Choi Arin about the exercises I gave her and follow them. If you do well, maybe I'll sympathize with you and consider teaching you something. Who's ignoring you? Why are you about to cry? Choi Arin, hearing Kim Ju-hyuk say that, was willing to pass on the message, but also learned to call Ju Sozyeon rude like he did. This made the girl furious. Kim Ju-hyuk followed the instructor to meet the person. Out of curiosity, he asked Instructor Lee who that person was that was so eager to see him. The instructor told him to think carefully. There was only one person waiting at the dojo, and that person was none other than Rocklin, who looked much more haggard and worn out than a few days ago. Rocklin stammered for help, kneeling at Kim Do-hoo's feet. Help me, please, I'm sorry, just save me. Rockland cried out desperately. Kim Do-hoo pointed at him and turned to ask Instructor Lee what was wrong with him. Lee Sang-cho pretended he thought Kim Do-hoo already knew, but explained that he had discovered Rockland had made a deal with that assassin group, including the latest suspicions about the Level 1 murder team. He was the mastermind behind both murders, and this had been uncovered by the media. Now they had all the information about Robin and the ringleader of the attack in Valhalla, and Kim Joo-hyuk was indeed a pig pretending to be a tiger, not joking around because it was he who revealed these things to the media. But this guy had the protection of the Ventric family. The head of the family would surely come to take him away. Why is he still asking for your help? Kim Joo-hyuk wondered. Lee Sang-cho said that previously the Ventric family had officially announced their disassociation with Rockland, not just him. People related to him, like his father, couldn't escape the fate of being shunned either. This time, his family had shown no new moves, so without their protection, he was now preparing to be thrown into prison. That's why you want me to help Rockland, yelling for me to give him a chance. This situation blew up because of your testimony. Right. Hey, are you asking or ordering me while speaking in such a funny tone? Right, hey, are you going to ask or command people with that funny tone? Rockin doesn't even realize how desperate his pleas sound. He only knows how to whine, and of course Kim Joo-hyuk can't stand it, so he firmly decides to ignore Rockin, who clings on like a leech, crying and apologizing, swearing he'll never show up in front of Joo-hyuk again. But he doesn't need that. Rockin brings money to exchange, and that's when the teacher starts getting itchy for his profession. But he has to bite his tongue and stay silent. Joo-hyuk isn't short on cash, so he doesn't need Rockin's craziness. He glances at Urea and roughly pulls her over. What about this woman? I'll give her to you. She's a descendant of the British royal family. With this woman, your status will definitely rise. Rockin is actively pitching for a reasonable price to reclaim his non-existent reputation. You give her to me. Is she just a piece of merchandise? Kim Joo-hyuk is about to explode, but Rockin isn't someone who reads the room. He's completely lost it trying to salvage his mistakes. He insists Urea is his possession, even showing proof with a glowing spell to let Joo-hyuk know he's serious. I can transfer her if you want her. Teacher Lai, that's a binding spell with a mark created by magical power. It's a taming spell that makes the target unable to disobey their master. That's a spell only a contract holder can use. Normally it can't be undone, yet this crazy guy applies it to a human just like those who used to have lives of luxury. Casting a binding spell on innocent people, Joo-hyuk reaches out to Urea, radiating energy, grabbing the spell and pulling it out with a moment of hesitation. So the binding spell has been broken. Coach, can I punch this guy? Just one punch, Joo-hyuk frowning asks. Do you think a coach from Valhalla like me would let my students fight each other? Teacher Lai chuckles but is also annoyed. This guy has been quiet for a long time, but if that person is a criminal, then that's another story. Besides, Valhalla doesn't care about family members. Van is too picky, so just transfer it. I've got this. Rockin is completely stunned. He never expected this day would come for him, but he can't stop it. His hand reaches for Joo-hyuk's shoulder, keeping his mouth shut to avoid losing his teeth. Joo-hyuk kindly reminds him, but that's it. He still throws a punch straight at this jerk's face without mercy, and Rockin collapses on the spot. Outside, Butcher said he thought his teacher would kill that guy. Well, it's not the first time Joo-hyuk has been this furious since his reincarnation. If it were 300 years ago, Do-hoo wouldn't hesitate to take action. He once had a disciple sold into slavery. Because of that binding spell, remembering this drives him even crazier. Moreover, Do-hoo had also gone through something like that, making him wonder if his teacher was once a slave. Wait, that girl Urea is chasing after Do-hoo, wanting to kick him. At that moment, I was so surprised that I couldn't properly thank him. Thank you so much, Joo-hyuk said. She doesn't need to thank him. From now on, she shouldn't worry about anything and just live freely. Urea was so moved that she cried the next day after school at the cafe in Valhalla, China. Lily blurted out something that made Joo-hyuk confused. The royal palace of Valhalla is located in China, so just say it from the start. What's with the vague talk? To be more specific, it's a maze owned by the White Lotus Society of China, which is one of the groups that came to Valhalla to participate in the competition. The issue is that recently, unlike before, they have strictly prohibited others from entering their maze, but Joo-hyuk couldn't understand why a maze could be owned by someone. In the past, even dogs and cows could enter the maze without any issues, and for Do-hoo, he could easily destroy it if he wanted to. It's just a bit inconvenient since it belongs to the academy. Is there any way to get in? This is tough. Although the White Lotus Society will allow students there to enter, it's uncertain for outsiders. And if you want to get in, you need to hurry because time is quite tight. At this point, the teacher suddenly covered her mouth as if she had let something slip, which she indeed did, as she usually exchanges information with this kid all the time. So it's extremely necessary to keep herself from being caught off guard. By the way, are you just planning to sit and listen? Give me the information. Lily whined, criticizing the freeloader sitting across from her. Do-hyu didn't understand what she was saying, so Lily held up 3 fingers and demanded 3 pieces of information, promising to let him off the hook. Thanks for the coffee, I'm off. Kim Do-hyuk stood up and Lily hurriedly tried to stop him, saying she would only share this with him. I've heard enough, I'm leaving. Kim Do-hyuk sat back down at the table, and Lily, with a reluctant expression, whispered to him that this was a secret. The Royal Palace of Ahala was chosen as one of the venues for the World Tournament in the 2nd semester. Kim Do-hyu didn't think what she just said was a secret, because it sounded like all the trainers already knew about it. What's secret about it, Lily asserted that even the trainers didn't have this information. She has her own sources. This world tournament is similar to the academy competition. If the competition in Korea is only for students from Korea, China, and the United States, then the world tournament is like an Olympics where academies from all over the world gather and compete. In other words, it's an expanded and unpredictable version of an inter-school competition. It's happening in the 2nd semester, so there's still a lot of time. Is there any way to get in there sooner? Kim Do-hyuk wanted to speed up the mission, which made Lily quite flustered because she had no connections with the White Lotus Society. After thinking for a while, she said it was hard to guarantee, but it might be feasible. But I need you to help me with something. Kim Do-hyu's face twisted as he asked what it was. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, so why the expression like you want to eat something? Drink from someone else's cup. So just come with me to the Global Monster Research Organization for just 1 day, so you don't need to worry. We'll quickly reach North London, Tottenham. The Global Monster Research Organization is located here. Just 1 day, what the heck flying all the way to London? Realizing he had been tricked, Kim Do-hyu got furious. It's only been a day and he's already here. Lily was smiling brightly, but I still get to stay until the end of the week. They even let me have Monday off, so just enjoy yourself. This lady really knows how to abuse her authority. So do whatever you want, just don't look at each other with those eyes. It's so annoying right now. Do-hyu was holding a sword in front of a wild boar while 3 middle-aged men were staring at him without blinking. Kim Do-hyuk looked at the boar. He remembered Lily's words that her story was a lot and not much. She just needed help with the headline. Basically, it's like Do-hyuk, the notorious monster hunter facing challenges at the Global Monster Research Organization. Kim Do-hyu coldly stabbed the boar right between the eyes. Before it could scream, the system logged out and outside a confirmation sound rang out. The boar quickly stopped completing the verification and preparing the crystal. Kim Do-hyu smacked his lips, still more to come. An hour later, he finally lay sprawled on the sofa complaining about the hassle. Lily was so annoying with her endless requests. This girl really knows how to twist words. I thought the original plan was just to defeat 3 monsters. Why do we have to verify up to 10? Lily looked away, hesitating, saying she didn't know why either. Putting that aside for now, Do-hyu didn't understand why the atmosphere there felt so strange as soon as we stepped in. Everyone was staring, then they started laughing heartily. So is there a conflict with this place when you act rudely towards us? Lily took a quiet sip of water for a moment before saying, it's because they feel disgusted, since suddenly an article appeared that directly contradicted the strategy for dealing with monsters. It has existed for many centuries, but isn't the verification method outdated by now? Just swinging a sword to hit the target means game over, right? But Lily said that's the safest method, a tradition of the organization. And if that's the case, then someone else in the organization should handle it. It would be better that way. I don't want them to do it. Lily suddenly got serious. They're just a bunch of stubborn old folks. Articles about monster combat strategies are a reasonable tactic to elevate status and power. Today, in a knowledge society, people fight for their own positions by collaborating and joking with each other. I can't help but feel they're all despicable people, but even so, does Lily really need to keep writing articles? The press is just a piece of paper not yet recognized by society. It doesn't matter how terrible society is. What's more important to me is a correct strategy to deal with those monsters. For that purpose, I can endure those cold stares. Looking at it from this perspective, Lily is a girl who has always been loyal and firm in her beliefs. Now that her matter is settled, it's Lily's turn to respond to Kim Do-hyu. She said it's great that they've come here, because she's here too. I heard the head of the White Lotus Society often visits the organization. I think she came earlier to observe the verification process. If that's the case, then it's good. Kim Do-hyuk quickly stood up to find her before it's too late. Just then, a woman came to talk to him. It turned out to be the president of the White Lotus Society. "Nice to meet you. My name is Seon, the head of the White Lotus Society." "A woman came to talk to you, and it turns out she's the president of the White Lotus Society. She's happy to meet you. My name is Seon, the head of the White Lotus Society." Kim Do-hyuk politely greeted her and asked if there was something wrong. "Seon came to ask you for a favor. Could you help me with this person? Actually, Tiet Van wants Do-hyuk to deal with that person." Lily sensed that the situation seemed serious, so she slipped away before she could notice. Kim Do-hyuk just asked Tiet Van what the details of the story were. She said that even though she currently held the position of the leader of the White Lotus Society, essentially she was a member of the Tiet family, which was the first family to settle in China. After the period of decline, they were able to elevate their status, establishing the White Lotus Academy and training outstanding contract users. Coincidentally, there was a talented individual in their family. The child could even be called a prodigy. By the age of 13, that kid could defeat average contract users and even beat older siblings. And members of the family's society, even the leader of Tiet, had to bow down to her, perhaps because she felt there was nothing left to learn. From the outside, she locked herself in Tuyet's training room in the White Lotus Palace and never came out again, so I had to punch that arrogant person in the mouth. "Did that open your eyes?" Kim Do-hyuk quickly grasped the situation. This was Tiet Van's intention. To him, this was just a minor issue, but he still had some doubts about whether he should just teach that girl a lesson. "Aren't there still many others stronger than me? If we consider magical strength, the leader of the White Lotus Society isn't weak at all." Tiet Van couldn't help but admire Do-hyuk's keen insight. She had hidden her power, and yet you could still recognize it. There are two reasons that determine this. First, because they require everyone to fight purely with physical strength, and second, that person is also 17 years old, the same age as student Kim Do-hyuk here. Tiet Van had also been monitoring Do-hyuk's performance in recent battles, and it was very clear that he was someone with incredibly strong stamina. If a student like him, Kim Do-hyuk, could defeat the arrogant girl who always thought she was stronger than any other 17-year-old, her pride would be completely shattered. That's why I'm here to ask you for this. If student Kim Do-hyuk doesn't come here, then I will personally seek you out later. Wow, a good opportunity just fell from the sky like that. How could anyone be foolish enough to refuse? However, since it's a request, of course, there won't be anything free in any case. All right. This isn't a problem for Tiet Van. She offered you a price, but Do-hyuk has plenty of money, so he doesn't care. There's a place I want to go. Could you open the door for me? Instead, it was another proposal. In a flash, the two of them had flown from here to the headquarters of the White Lotus Society. Kim Do-hyuk didn't expect to arrive here in just one day. Moreover, he even got to take a private jet because he said he only had time until Monday, so Tiet Van rushed to speed up the work as much as possible and Ju's compensation. Of course, Hyuk is the ticket to the royal palace, right? For Tiet Van, this wasn't difficult at all, so she readily agreed, and Hyuk followed her straight to the White Lotus Society, but he had some questions. It was about the recent inter-school competition. He felt that the members of the White Lotus Society didn't show any determination at all. Could the person he was about to meet be the one responsible for that? This could be explained after facing that kid. Many people realized their limits and left the White Lotus Society, both students and professors. Tiet Van expressed hope that Kim Do-hyuk could knock some sense into that girl. After the tense situation at the Tiet family and the White Lotus Society, Kim Do-hyuk hoped that the girl would really fight back. Otherwise, it would be a waste of effort to step through that magical circle. To reach the secret training room of the Tiet family, that kid was there. Before going, Do-hyuk suddenly remembered he had to ask the girl's name. It was Yen Lang, the one with the striped tiger head but fangs like a wolf. "Who are you? Did the Tiet family send you here to kick me out? I'm not going anywhere, so get lost." "Hey, I'm still trying to stand on the doorstep here." "Where do you think you're going?" Kim Do-hyuk was not pleased with her attitude. As soon as he arrived, he quickly launched an attack to correct her insolence, but got caught by a punch with just one hand. "Oh, this is interesting!" Yen Lang even turned the tables and counterattacked. Do-hyuk was foolish. She had a sharp tongue and didn't even realize her opponent's abilities. "Right in front of you! I can't believe you threw a punch out of nowhere!" Kim Do-hyuk smirked, talking to himself. Under Yen Lang's astonished gaze, he quickly grabbed her wrist while throwing a punch. Yen Lang tilted her head to dodge, but Kim Do-hyuk's punch landed straight on her wrist. She gritted her teeth, wondering how this guy didn't know what it meant to cherish beauty. Yen Lang was knocked back, and after landing, she hugged her arm and anxiously asked, "Who are you?" "What was that move just now?" Kim Joo-hyuk smiled triumphantly, seeming to think she wouldn't know. The real ability of a 17-year-old student Yen Lang couldn't land a single hit, so she gritted her teeth and began to calculate her opponent's moves. Yen Lang guessed that Joo-hyuk would attack now, so she stepped back. Kim Joo-hyuk saw this and chased after her, leaving no openings. "Where do you think you're running off to?" She jabbed him right in the stomach. After all, he was just a frog. Oh, wait, a girl be a bit gentler. She has a boyfriend, too. But I have to give credit to Yen Lang. She knew she couldn't dodge that last punch. So she had stepped back to lessen the impact of the punch. But that was enough, and Joo-hyuk realized right after he intentionally took the first punch even among the disciples from 300 years ago. Almost no one at this age could move like that. Meanwhile, Yen Lang was secretly assessing the person her age in front of her, but she still felt confident that she was much better than those older than this guy. Yen Lang promised herself she would hit harder in the next rounds. Seeing her smile, Kim Joo-hyuk guessed that the last punch hadn't been enough to teach her a lesson. Tik Van was outside monitoring the fight through surveillance cameras. Her assistant hesitant called her, saying she was about to speak but wanted to check if everything was okay. Although inviting a student from another school to the White Lotus Pavilion is unavoidable, the current advantage doesn't guarantee that he can win. Yen Lang further thought that Tiet Van hadn't lost when facing Yen Lang, but the truth is, Tiet Van had lost to Yen Lang once, and even with magical energy used in that match, Tiet Van couldn't ensure victory over her. This surprised Assistant Ha quite a bit, but the truth is, back then the mana level difference between the two was almost negligible. And that was many years ago. Currently, Yen Lang might be stronger both physically and in magical power, if that's the case. Assistant Ha had even less faith in Joo-hyuk defeating Yen Lang because he didn't believe that the kid could be stronger than Tiet Van at this moment, and Tiet Van herself wasn't sure about that either. But Joo-hyuk had defeated many notorious criminals and even won important tournaments, so Yen Lang would have to struggle to win, and if she lost, it wouldn't be a big deal. Back to the fight, Yen Lang had extended her claws and unleashed the ultimate move, the Nine Sounds White Bone Claw, with both hands clawing together trying to recreate the hairstyle for Joo-hyuk, which he managed to dodge. So she intended to knee him to reshape his nose, but with a fierce collision, Yen Lang was still laughing because she hit him right on the head, but then she had to grimace and hug her knee back. "Hey, is your head made of stone or what?" she protested angrily. Kim Joo-hyuk casually replied that it was clear she was the one who kneed him while Joo-hyuk used his forehead to block. Yet the knee was not harder than his forehead. Yen Lang was really mad but couldn't do anything. She had already unleashed all her attacks. This guy was as tough as a rock. Yen Lang's pride was severely hurt, but she had to admit that Joo-hyuk's physical ability was on another level. "Up until now you haven't used any magical power, right?" Yen Lang asked, and Joo-hyuk confirmed that was true, doing so to please her, but now he wanted to play differently. The girl was preparing to turn the tables. "For you, I have to give it my all if I want to have any hope of winning." Yen Lang flaunted her mana power, and Kim Joo-hyuk knew this was a sign that he had completely shattered her arrogance. "Are you planning to focus your magical power?" "Just as you wish I should show off a bit too, right?" The amount of mana that Joo-hyuk radiated was even more terrifying, making Yen Lang gasp, but now she didn't need to show off her skills. Physically, he was going to land a punch combined with magical power to finish the fight. Yen Lang decisively threw a punch straight at Joo-hyuk's face. Seeing her rushing to finish like that, Joo-hyuk just stood still, allowing the punch to come right in front of him. Yen Lang was delighted, thinking she had hit her target, but oh no. Kim Joo-hyuk twisted his body more flexible than candy, dodging the blow in an instant. "I've played enough. I'll end this now." And then he landed a devastating punch into the girl's stomach. Yen Lang's eyes rolled back, cursing the damn monster, then fell unconscious on the floor. "Game over, baby, game over. Just as requested, I have defeated her and dragged her out." Kim Joo-hyuk carried Yen Lang by the neck, like carrying a chicken in front of Tiet Van. Look who would carry someone else's daughter like this. Tiet Van was still astonished, not believing that Joo-hyuk could defeat Yen Lang. She worriedly asked if he was hurt anywhere. Joo-hyuk casually said he was fine, but as for Yen Lang, he didn't know. Tiet Van asked if the match was really that tough. "She is strong, but I'm a bit disappointed that it ended this way. Yen Lang was hurt when Joo-hyuk threw the powder on the ground, and when she woke up, she saw Tiet Van showing a hostile attitude. For now, Tiet Van decided to set aside this matter of hers. But let's talk about Du Hye's reward first. You said you wanted to enter the royal palace of Aana, right? You've been waiting for a while now. Tu Yevan said she could let Du Hye in right now. She was just waiting to see what he wanted. Of course, Du Hye wanted to get things done right away. Food has to be hot and crispy to be delicious. Yen Lang watched as he and Tiet Van walked away, and finally Assistant Ha had to remind her to go treat her injuries. Yen Lang finally reacted, asking, "What was the name of the person who defeated me?" Assistant Ha quickly replied, "That person is Kim Do-hyuk. Kim Do-hyuk, let me tell you. He is one of the strongest people in the world," Yen Lang said with admiration, and deep down she truly wanted to fight this person again. In an unclear space of light and darkness, an unknown creature with huge horns emphasized the phrase, "the strongest," with a question mark. What is this place? Is this really a maze? Kim Do-hyuk looked at the royal palace of Aana in front of him, unable to hide his disdainful expression, recalling Tu Yevan's words that this place was a maze similar to a castle. "Just be careful of the monsters called living armor, and you can freely explore this place." Tiet Van specifically reminded him of the details he needed to pay attention to. Kim Do-hye asked how long he could stay. Tiet Van said it would be about 5 hours. If he wanted to stay longer, he would have to come back tomorrow. 5 hours was quite comfortable for Do-hye. He had already explored. First, he had to take care of those living armors. Once he warmed up his joints, he would dive into battle. After a few precise cuts, Kim Do-hyuk succeeded. Especially the armored team was shattered. He had already taken out about 20 of them. "I can't find Ali Free Johnny's secret room anywhere." "Look to the right there." He had to remind his hot-tempered teacher that the door looked a bit upscale but resembled a normal room. Kim Do-hyuk was a bit skeptical about the validity of this argument, but he still opened the door and immediately saw a painting of a man looking grumpy, as if someone had borrowed money and not paid it back. Overall, this room did look like a normal office. But this was indeed the room of that Alifri guy. "Why not? I think it's right." "Look under the painting, it says Alifri Johnny there," Bok Cho said confidently. Kim Do-hyuk wondered how he could read it. Bok Cho didn't know how, but he could read it anyway, thanks in part to the information from the memories he regained. Then this must be the room. But where is the secret room in here? They still had to search, and searching one by one would take too much time, so it would be much faster to smash everything and look for it. If you like to break things, just say it. And stop pretending to be quick and slow. Anyway, this room will be smashed by Do-hye anyway. Let me be. After breaking it, I found a door lying on the floor. I fumbled around in the dark, unable to see anything. Kim Do-hyuk was still feeling uneasy when a notification window popped up, revealing a red-haired witch right in front of him. The young man awkwardly greeted the girl, and the red-haired witch smiled gently, saying, "It's a pleasure to meet you. I'll answer your questions, so why don't you take a seat?" Kim Do-hyuk quietly sat down. "Let me introduce myself. I'm a guide," he said, looking quite surprised. The girl quickly explained, "Oh, sorry, that's not my real name. It's just what everyone calls me. My name has been taken away." About that. Kim Do-hyuk was also a victim of that dark shadow that steals others' names, and he didn't expect that this girl in front of him had also lost her name. He thought that was nonsense, but when she said her name had been taken, he realized it was true. But what does that mean? Besides, how can one get their name back? Kim Do-hyuk was eager to resolve everything. The red-haired witch immediately said, "The name holds power. Every being born is granted a name. All their actions, efforts, and achievements, whether good or bad, are reflected in the most meaningful thing in life, a name. A name adorned with glorious achievements will bring immense power. That being has stolen names and absorbed the power contained within them. And what happens when a person's name is taken away? I'm sure you already know. They become a constellation." However, the red-haired witch mentioned an exception, Kim Do-hyuk, who had been reincarnated. At that moment, Kim Do-hyuk realized that this girl knew about his reincarnation, just like Bok. "Are you still doubting me?" "Oh, reincarnated human, and you received a notification window," the guide said, as if Kim Do-hyuk was wearing flip-flops in his stomach. "I'm not sure either. In fact, I don't even know when the notification window will appear." The witch smiled, easing Do-hyuk's tension. Who would have thought he would show such an attitude? "All right, enough nonsense. Just explain it to me." "The one who sent the Tower of Destruction down here, who is he? His name is the Lord of the Labyrinth. As I said, he sent the Tower of Destruction to Earth with the aim of stealing others' names to strengthen his power. So that's the bastard behind it." But Kim Do-hyuk still felt it was very strange. He couldn't understand how an ordinary Lord of the Labyrinth could send something like the Tower of Destruction to Earth. Things of that scale could only be handled by someone of a much higher caliber. Turns out it was that bastard. But Kim Do-hyo still felt very strange. I don't understand how an ordinary Labyrinth Lord could send something like the Destruction Tower to Earth. Things of that large scale can only be from someone of a certain caliber. It's impossible. Kim Do-hyuk suddenly realized something and stopped. The red-haired witch laughed. So you finally figured it out, huh? The place you live known as Earth is just a maze. Do you really think I would believe that? It's up to you to decide. But I have no reason to come all the way here. Just to deceive you, well, let's just say that's the case. Let's just say that guy. The Tower of Destruction came to Earth to steal someone else's name. The red-haired witch added that if there were a large-scale crisis on Earth, stealing someone else's name would be much easier. Everyone would be busy fighting monsters and saving people or taking advantage of the chaos to do evil during a large-scale crisis. So not everyone can just steal someone else's name and turn it into their own power. Only the ultimate victors can do that. If what she said is true, then Ju-hyuk's disciples have all turned into constellations by now. Of course, he hopes that in the end they can all reclaim their names. Ju-hyuk thought, feeling a tightness in his chest. After all, no matter what we do, we're still in the hands of the Labyrinth Lord. The red-haired witch replied, "It's not like that. Your rebirth and arrival here is already a variable for him." Do-hyuk wondered if the Labyrinth Lord knew he was reborn, then could it be that he met them through the notification window? He had misunderstood this. According to the witch, the one who gave Do-hyuk the chance to be reborn and brought the notification window to them was not the Labyrinth Lord. Do-hyuk wanted to know who that person was. The witch knew about this too, but since she knew that person gave Do-hyuk the chance to be reborn, there must be some connection between the two. And for now, the witch couldn't miss this opportunity. She magically conjured a ring and handed it to Do-hyuk. "I don't have time right now, so I can't explain everything to you in detail. This will be the key to our counterattack against that Labyrinth Lord." Do-hyuk wondered why she didn't just sit here and finish explaining everything. The witch said she was being pursued by the Labyrinth Lord, but it was fine. The conditions have been fully met, and you'll easily meet me again in the future. While Do-hyuk was still confused, the witch scheduled to meet again in 2 days, emphasizing that he shouldn't drop the ring, then snapped her fingers and sent him back to where he started. Kim Do-hyuk. Reflecting on the new truths uncovered today, he couldn't help but grind his teeth in frustration. Being good doesn't guarantee a good outcome. Wanting to live well is tough. Again, the ring on Ju-hyuk's hand felt like it was pinpointing his location, which meant the remnants of the mana absorption from the great battle before were still present. This time, Kim Ju-hyuk would leave no stone unturned to boost his power as quickly as possible. Even if he might still fall short in strength, his potential could still reach great heights. Faster than that damn bastard. Meanwhile, on an island in the North Pacific, a man was reading news about the assassin group Sam-san being completely defeated by a student from Valhalla. Kim Chu-hyu was so furious that he crushed his iPad screen and threw it away, cursing those idiots. If you're not going to use it, at least let those less fortunate have it. Why smash it like that? This guy is the leader of the Dragon Guild Hannibal. He's been keeping an eye on Kim Ju-hyuk ever since he heard from the Constellation. It was that little brat who defeated Goijin Gun, even though that guy had a pact with the Constellation, too. That's why the kid from Venice asked him to deal with Kim Ju-hyuk and to be sure he summoned Sam-san. But now, where the hell is he? Meanwhile, it's been revealed that he's still single. I guess you're having some trouble, huh? You're talking to me, the first-ranked commander, George. I remember you were supposed to call me before coming here. Hannibal may have lost face, but he didn't lose his authority. George was intentionally mocking him, saying he only came because it seemed like he was suffering. And Kim Ju-hyuk is the thorn in Hannibal's side right now. I see. We've already lost one person to him. George seemed quite heartbroken. You mean that bastard who made headlines? That's him, the one who overdosed and then poked death? It was George who assigned him a private mission without informing the organization, and of course that guy didn't do well. He even exposed his identity to Kim Ju-hyuk. But that was a pawn for George to gather information about the Ventric family. He was afraid that person would leak information, so he personally disposed of this worthless pawn. Before he was taken to the prison tower, can you handle those guys who are lounging around out there? Hannibal was referring to the 3 members of Sam-san. Of course, George didn't mind as long as Hannibal wanted it, but Hannibal was still hesitant about Kim Ju-hyuk. With all due respect, I advise you not to touch him right now. George finally said something sensible. Yugo is keeping an eye on him right now. So it turns out there's already beneficial intel. This information surprised Hannibal. Don't tell me those Yugo guys are all a bunch of cowards. Exactly, George confirmed. Even though we're wicked, they're on a higher level. No one knows what their motives or goals are. Logan's army has already been dealt with by them. Hannibal had heard about this too, and he felt lucky that George had informed him about Hugo tracking Kim Joo-hyuk because once someone touches the target of those crazy people, they could easily become their sworn enemy. So they just sit back and enjoy the show while the big guys fight. Over here, a high-stakes technological confrontation is about to happen. Kim Joo-hyuk was surrounded by a black-clad squad, but it wasn't because he was looking for answers. Only Kim Joo-hyuk, with a cold expression, asked them who they were. Do you know this is Valhalla territory? And who the hell were these brave or foolish people showing up at this godforsaken hour? The leader had received orders from the head of the Ventric family, Adelia, who still held a grudge against Kim Joo-hyuk. So she had sent people to provoke him. They had taken quite a bit of time to prepare because they needed a fake pact capable of creating a hidden space in the Vanguard formation. And we also need to make sure that the target audience in the Adelia area is wondering why they need someone who can bend space so easily. It's because those taking this trip are directly working under the Ventic house, so they can't be exposed. Adelia highly values their awareness and is also very curious to know if they have prepared well for what she has disseminated. Yes, to prepare well for the transition of the sanctuary, I have already arranged a crystal with abundant energy. Adelia is very pleased with this plan. And she has also prepared to move while the head butler will join the intelligence team, and once the hidden space is completed, he will take on the role of leading the assassin group. The head butler understands the mission, but still wonders if the sanctuary is a preparation step to summon a constellation. Yes, that's exactly it. And it's also the purpose of this action from Adelia. The head butler's urgency makes her somewhat displeased to face a kid. Does a high school student scare you that much? Well, saying that, why are you radiating energy, huh? The head butler hurriedly reinforced his morale, and Adelia just retracted her energy and smiled, saying it was just a precaution, no need to worry. Sounds trustworthy, especially since there was a recent incident. The constellation had been silent but suddenly reacted. Adelia saw the notification window of the beak mask asking for a detailed explanation, so she felt uneasy. She wanted to summon a constellation and clarify everything returning to the siege. The head butler ordered the intelligence team to prepare for a spatial interruption. A group immediately set up around Kim Joo-hyuk, who still stood there looking confused, wondering who came up with the idea of ambushing a student. That's pretty lame. Clever indeed, the head butler's face was as cold as ice, thinking, whose idea was this? Was it the head of the Ventic family? Shocked into silence, he swore and asked how he knew. Not knowing would be an insult to Kim Joo-hyuk's intelligence. Just explain to this group that thinks they're clever. Knowing that among his enemies there are 2 groups using dark magic, the rest can only be the Ventic family. Who else could be behind this? The head butler sensed something was off and quickly issued another directive. We're stuck in here too, so continuing to hide is pointless. Call the assassin group. A formidable army was mobilized in just 2 ticks, not feeling embarrassed at all. What if a bunch of academy students rush in? Kim Joo-hyuk scoffed. The head butler said that it didn't matter. They were just following the head's orders. Kim Joo-hyuk shrugged, sighing, so that's how it is. Surely your head doesn't know what shame is. Kill him, the head butler ordered sharply. Who do you want to kill? Look at the merchandise. Kim Joo-hyuk single-handedly took on the whole group while still grinning. The assassins were knocked down, and the butler fiercely attacked Joo-hyuk but was mocked by him. Uncle only knows how to swing a sword. Just as he finished speaking, 2 hawks flew in from somewhere conveniently for him. Let me show you what it means to wield a sword properly. With a swift slice, the blade struck the ground, leaving the assassin momentarily stunned while the others were busy spraying glue. I quickly delivered a kick to put him to rest. I bet you guys didn't even give me a moment to breathe. The butler noticed I was preoccupied with dealing with others, so he tried to stab me from behind. Unfortunately for him, his opponent had eyes in the back of his head and managed to dodge. While he was in shock, wondering if this was the ability of a high school student, Kim Joo-hyuk was complaining and thrusting his sword through armor. Of course, no one was hit by this attack. And it was all so normal. The butler thought that a kid still in high school couldn't do much, but now he was witnessing it firsthand. Now I understand why Adelia had to set up such a grand scheme. Just as he fell, the head of the Ventric family appeared. Adelia looked at the people around her. Most of them were stronger than the other contract holders. It was hard to believe that someone like this could knock them out cold, and she didn't want the situation to continue like this. Feel proud. Because you're about to witness the legacy of the Ventric family, something ordinary people will never have the chance to see. Adelia unleashed blazing golden mana as she spoke. Kim Joo-hyuk jokingly replied, "I should feel proud to see that dull knife. The head of the family is so thick-skinned that he gathered a whole bunch of people just to bully a high school student." "What did you just say?" "You're just a pretty boy who's barely healed and you're still acting tough." Adelia was furious, cursing as she charged at Kim Joo-hyuk with her small knife. At that moment, several gemstones suddenly lit up. The knife in her hand elongated, glowing brightly, and a yellow notification window appeared with 3 dots, ending with a shocking statement. Master the gemstones emitted a shimmering golden light, but at the same time they froze everyone in place. Even Adelia couldn't escape this fate. Everyone stood still like statues except for Kim Joo-hyuk, who remained unfazed. Adelia, although unable to move, still had her mind intact and realized that everyone had turned into wooden dolls while Kim Joo-hyuk was examining his golden knife. Just at that moment, a yellow notification window popped up and even Kim Joo-hyuk was puzzled. At that moment, the golden light formed a figure wearing a crow mask and glasses. It looked quite charming, but when the mask was removed, it revealed a stunning beauty with a unique style. The 4-eyed girl now looked completely different from when they first met. Back then, she was still chained in a dungeon looking at the world with hatred. At that time, Kim Joo-hyuk was still Kim Hyun looking into the eyes of this brat. It seemed she hated all humans. With her blonde hair, she gritted her teeth and said, "Don't act like you understand me. You don't know a thing about life. Although I don't know everything, I know enough. Because I was once a slave, too." This time the girl was stunned. "When I was young, I didn't have any power and was kidnapped by a slave trader just like you. I lived a life of slavery because those chains bound me. Do you want to be free?" What a stupid question. Didn't I just say I was once a slave? So why ask such an obvious question? Because of this damn thing, I can't even dream of freedom anymore. The girl nearly screamed in agitation, grabbing the enchanted chain around her neck. "So don't provoke me anymore. Just disappear." "I don't know how you snuck in, but the slave trader will be here soon." She was truly desperate to escape the shackles of slavery. The cruelty of those chains lay in the fact that they could only be removed by their owner, or when that person dies. If luck runs out, even if the owner dies, the chains cannot be removed. In her case, it seemed to be the latter. The chains can't be removed in your case. It seems like the latter is true. At that moment, the slave girl realized that her scoundrel master had passed away. She immediately fell into complete despair, but Kim Hyun-oh suggested that what if he had a way? Without waiting for her to react, Hyun-oh grabbed the collar chain and began analyzing it by deciphering the magic contained within it. "We can reverse the spell and slowly unravel it. Although this isn't my specialty, for me removing this chain isn't a big deal. Because only then I can finally end my life as a slave." With that, Kim Hyun-oh shattered the chain with the binding spell around the blonde's neck, and in that moment she was moved to tears. Because she had finally severed the tormenting chain that had bound her for so long, Hyun-oh had done what needed to be done, and he asked for permission to stand up and leave. As for this girl, she needed to start making decisions about her own life. Hyun-oh asked her what she wanted to do next, whether to find her family or go home. "I have no home or family because the slave trader killed my family and burned my house when he kidnapped me." The girl had a sad story. Kim Hyun-oh hesitated for a moment and then said he would travel and explore and he would crush the skulls of those scoundrels who traded slaves, those who bought and sold people. Just like what he did today, did she want to join him? "Of course I want to go." Why would I say no? Hyun-oh was very pleased with her answer and told her to treat him well as if he were a master. If she considered him a master, she should use honorifics. "Don't speak like a barbarian," Kim Hyun-oh, just promoted, reminded her very sternly, and she nodded obediently. The blonde girl asked him what his name was. Kim Joo-hyuk could say his name, but when it came to introducing her name, the memory was cut off, and now the barbaric name in his words had become a beautiful girl, sharp and full of personality like this. The downside was that she didn't have a name anymore because she had become a constellation. Kim Joo-hyuk confidently thought he understood this girl better than anyone else, but he couldn't remember her name. Now he understood when the fortune teller said that the Demon King would take away the name of the constellation, meaning it was like this, but now there's no other way. "Fortunately, I still remember your nickname." "Barbaric name, it's been a while, right?" Adelia was stunned that this guy dared to call a constellation a barbaric name. Meanwhile, the constellation she revered called him Master, and took the golden knife known as the Holy Relic to restore consciousness for everyone, and then asked Kim Joo-hyuk, "How should I deal with these scoundrels? Should I kill them?" "No, I have a better idea." Kim Joo-hyuk stroked his chin and smiled in a not-so-kind way. The next day, the homeroom teacher nearly fainted when he saw the sponsorship amount reaching 9 figures. No, with a separate sponsorship note for the student Kim Joo-hyuk in the school's sponsorship list, Kim Lee-gun looked at it more and more and felt something was off. Off, but he didn't know what was wrong. Damn it! 5 billion won an amount that gives people headaches. I guess you see it too. What else to guess? The old man is watching this teacher, but not only the homeroom teacher found it strange. Teacher Lai also felt it was strange that Kim Lee-gun thought it was because the Ventric family suddenly felt guilty for causing a bit of chaos at their academy. But explaining it that way still seemed unreasonable to Lee Sang-treo, especially since Kim Joo-hyuk was attacked by the Ventric family last time. They must have sent funding to silence him. At that time, the donations were a way to protect the image of Rockin and the family, but the Ventric family had already set limits by expelling Rockin and kicking him out. Otherwise, they would have made a fuss to bring Rockin out for temporary detention by now. What on earth would they be funding Kim Joo-hyuk for? There must be a conspiracy behind this, and besides, they don't even know if Kim Joo-hyuk would accept this money. Because based on their usual chaotic nature, that kid is probably cursing up a storm and confronting the family right now. Always the Ventric family. Well, if I personally ask him, I'll get an answer right away, Lee Sang-treo said while sipping coffee. Let's do that, it'll be easier. Sitting here guessing won't help. This time, Kim Joo-hyuk has a surprising answer. Yes, I accept. Lai-gun widened his eyes, thinking he must have misheard, but no. I mean, who would refuse 5 billion won? It's true, but Kim Lee-gun still felt something was off. No, Kim Joo-hyuk was eager to leave, so the teacher had to hurry to announce the new benefits to him. Not only would he receive funding, but the Hala Academy would also receive a donation according to Hala's regulations. You can move to the premium dormitory, what do you think? I don't see anything uncomfortable about my current dorm, so helping me move next time would be fine. He left, but Teacher Kim still sat there puzzled, not understanding what just happened. When did this kid change his personality, but whatever. Anyway, the teacher had nothing to lose, so why worry about it? The root of this situation started when Kim Joo-hyuk came up with a clever idea to deal with Adelia and her group of assassins. He had called the small wives to wake her up to talk. Adelia trembled, kneeling on the ground, and Kim Joo-hyuk leaned down to talk to avoid the degenerative attack on his cervical spine. I think the constellation you summoned will overlook anything I do to those people. So what do you think I should do now? Kim Joo-hyuk scoffed, saying that Adelia's constellation had made the Ventric family serve her so the master could do whatever he wanted. Adelia still hadn't processed the situation, so she asked if it was possible that all of this was for one person. Passed down through many generations in the family, and now you're using that saying to command me. The little barbarian got furious upon hearing that, of course, that saying meant. Right now it means you all obey my master. You just realized that now, huh? So this student, what I mean is this person really your master guardian constellation? Yes, even though his appearance has changed, his magic is undoubtedly that of my master Kim Joo-hyuk. I think that's enough to ask her. Right now, I should worry about myself more. Honestly, being bothered by those assassins makes Kim Joo-hyuk just want to wipe them all out. However, their level and strength are genuine, so to live comfortably, he needs to make full use of these guys to work for him. The thing is, if he has to manage them directly, it would be quite a hassle, so why not take advantage of someone experienced in the field here? According to Adelia, even though she is just the deputy clan leader, it's been 4 years since she took over the clan's leadership. In those 4 years, she has managed to regain the declining power of her clan and become the strongest clan in the area. Just manage that clan. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't hesitate to tell her, always support my activities at the clan level. Don't ask me why about that. The moment you mess things up again, you know what will happen, right? Seeing the master signal, it was the crow mask. The fortune teller confirmed that they would personally supervise to ensure such things never happen again. Suddenly, her figure transformed into golden light and gradually faded, saying it was time. Because to manifest directly here, the constellations need a large amount of magic power, which means they need tons of magical stones. That's also why these people brought a pile of magical stones here. Because that amount of magic power is disappearing, and since I've used my skills, I need to rest a bit. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't expect that. Even constellations have to face such limitations. Nevertheless, she still felt that witnessing her master's rebirth like this was good enough. Kim Joo-hyuk was worried about her telling her to rest a bit before leaving. She put on her mask and said, besides me, it seems there are still other disciples, who also became constellations. You'll meet him soon. So excuse me, I'm leaving now. With that, she completely vanished as if she had never been here. and that made Kim Joo-hyuk keep thinking about this. He was starting to have a hunch. But who is coming next? Moreover, it's very likely that all his disciples will become constellations. When will he meet them soon? Kim Joo-hyuk has already personally met two of them. They are Bok Cho and Moron. The meeting with Bok Cho was inevitable. Thanks to the notification window, and with Moron it was by chance. Now there are a large number of constellations. What does it mean to meet each one of them? By the way, why hasn't Bok Cho said anything since he met the guide master called me, so I'll manifest right away. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately asked why he wasn't as talkative as usual. Bok Cho said he was organizing his thoughts. His memories were interrupted right at that moment. Joo-hyuk stepped into the secret room of his memories, feeling as if he had just walked outside the moment he entered that room, and another fragment of his memory returned. Do you remember how fragile and weak you were? The tension in the air was thick, so Joo-hyuk teased the kid. A fan, flustered, stammered about how he could possibly remember such a trivial memory, but he had learned the concept of the name that Joo-hyuk should have known by now. And another quite important thing, the Lord of the Labyrinth, that name was given to him while he was walking to class. Kim Joo-hyuk sat in class, but his mind was not on the lesson. The one who had stolen his true identity and returned the name Bok Cho was indeed the Lord of the Labyrinth, Bok Cho, confirming once again that it was indeed so. That name gave him power, but also killed him yet with the power of the Master of the Tower of Destruction that was only natural. But that power had affected his personality. When he was the Master of the Tower, he was somewhat rigid, perhaps due to the influence of his identity and power, which he had received. But his current personality was quite similar to the original Kim Joo-hyuk. He couldn't understand how that pervert could grant or take away someone else's identity like that. Bok Cho also didn't know exactly how he did it. Kim Joo-hyuk clicked his tongue. This world was a labyrinth big enough for that guy to exploit identities, which is why he could freely give and take away others' identities. Bok Cho didn't understand what Yoo-hyuk just said about this world being a labyrinth. This fool! How could you not know such important information? And so the two of them talked throughout the entire class. Bok Cho finally understood everything. Kim Joo-hyuk was also quite annoyed, but for now they were still fish being kept in his pond. So they couldn't act yet, but thanks to the guide, there was a chance to strike back. It was just a matter of waiting for the right moment. The next day, just as promised, the guide witch had arrived. At this moment, Kim Joo-hyuk was still holding the tray of food, standing there in a daze. The guide sprayed a bit of glue and then asked what that shiny silver thing was. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately snapped, "It's a food tray. Yes, you did say we'd meet again in 2 days, but why are you calling me in the middle of lunch?" His mouth was burning. How could this woman bring this up right before mealtime? The guide promised to pay attention to that next time and temporarily set that aside. The guide asked if he had brought the ring. "Yes, I have it right here." "Old hag, hurry up and do it. Why are you dragging this out?" "It looks like this isn't an item that boosts my stats. How do you plan to counter that guy with this?" Kim Joo-hyuk remained proactive about it. It was simple. "I just put on that ring and get through the labyrinth," the girl said casually. "Which maze are we talking about? Or is any maze fine? At first there were only a few natural mazes, and all the others are monitored, right? The guide said you can get through any maze. Soon the Maze Lord will create mazes from that in your world. What was it again? A monster disaster explosion. That means when a maze starts to form, monsters will rush out and the surrounding areas will be devastated before the reincarnation of Kim Do-hai happens. That thing spreads everywhere. That's why at that time, nowhere is safe. After reincarnation, everything stabilizes and you can enjoy life a bit, but it really means everything comes to your hands. So where and when will it appear? To what extent? About 3 months later, the scale is being determined. They say it will happen in a country called South Korea. Unbelievable. Even though I live in South Korea, if you don't tell me the exact location, how can I stop it? The guide doesn't dare to say because she's afraid the Maze Lord will find her, so she can only provide limited information like that. Honestly, it's really nothing but a hassle. The strange thing is, this world has always been a maze from the start. Why is another maze appearing in it? The Maze Lord created it on purpose. Is he preparing to create another identity? Exactly, he's already decided. You could say he's making everyone adapt before the Tower of Destruction appears, so I have to wear this ring and destroy the maze that appears when the disaster happens, right? That's the plan. However, the guide still wants to ask how Kim Do-hai usually destroys the mazes. The monsters that appear in the maze are quite tricky to deal with, so I usually ignore them and destroy the crystal maze. If I do that, the maze will automatically disappear. Kim Do-hai always likes to get things done quickly. Neatly, that's usually the fastest way, but this time you can't do that. Huh. So what should I do, old lady? Put on that ring and defeat the boss. Why do I have to do that? Of course there's a reason. Even though your world is just a maze, the Maze Lord can't randomly create a disaster or a tower of destruction. He has to use the power of the identities he has gained. Simply put, the mazes are created from identities among the components of the maze created in this way. The power of identity is most concentrated in that boss. If you wear that ring and defeat the boss, you can absorb the identity from the Labyrinth Lord, which will be the starting point of our counterattack plan. Kim Do-hyuk wondered if that guy had absorbed countless identities, right? They've only just absorbed one identity, so how can they possibly fight him? That's a really good question, of course. The Labyrinth Lord wouldn't care if just one identity disappeared. His goal is to help everyone adapt before the Tower of Destruction appears. So usually, instead of stealing an identity, the key to this plan is to quickly destroy the labyrinth. Then the Labyrinth Lord will realize that the labyrinths have vanished. Before everyone can adapt and change their strategy, he will create an event by sending a lot of identities to the world, and this is the opportunity for them to absorb. So many identities, because the identities they absorb will also add power to the user absorbing the identity and then turn into strength. I ask, how are we any different from the Labyrinth Lord? Kim Do-hyuk appeared quite serious about this idea. The guide was also surprised. She thought he was the kind of person who wouldn't care about these things. Hey, who do you think I am? I only feel comfortable doing the right thing. First of all, we will never harm innocent people to obtain identities, and if your identity is taken by the Labyrinth Lord, then that identity will be chained, preventing you from being reborn or becoming a constellation, so you will be imprisoned. Moreover, if you use the power of the identity you absorbed, right when their identities are no longer chained, they will also be free, the guide said. But if Kim Do-hyuk still feels uneasy, he can do whatever he wants. Furthermore, he will also learn what kind of person the owner of those identities is. Before absorbing them, of course. Kim Do-hyuk had no further objections. Now he just had to wait for the disaster to happen. The guide said she would let him know the exact time and place later. Until then, Kim Do-hyuk should form a team to prevent the disaster from happening. Just defeat the boss and destroy the labyrinth, right? The guide explained that although the monsters in the labyrinth would perish when the labyrinth was destroyed, the monsters that had escaped would still be around. And they should stop them, right? See you later. The guide snapped her fingers and Kim Do-hyuk was immediately transported right in front of the counter. Damn this guide girl. I told her to say something before teleporting. However, she said that a team needed to be formed to prevent the disaster before his rebirth. He had already gone with his disciples to handle disasters. Doing it alone would take a lot of time. Moreover, he also had to prevent damage, so should he recruit disciples this time?